Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. We're on the Dr. Finance Live podcast. Incredible episode today. We got an amazing guy. We got Vince Cecere here. Vince is a top martial artist, an extremely successful entrepreneur, a comedian. He's an actor. He's so many things. He's got his own Olympic statue with his face there. We're going to talk about all these incredible things that Vince does today. So let's give a warm welcome for Vince. Welcome, Vince. How are you, sir?
Hey, brother Tony. How you doing? Great to see you. Thank you for having me, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely, Vince. Honored to have you here. Vince is, as you folks may know, I also have a background in martial arts. My last book was about survival, and Vince is an incredible Japanese Jiu-jitsu martial artist, amongst so many other things. So, Vince, the way I like to get started, I gave everyone just a quick snapshot, but maybe can you do like a 30-second snapshot of your bio, and then we'll get into your story, and then we got about 20 questions or so. We have to figure about a minute to 2 minutes each question. So,
Sure. I'm from the Bronx, Arthur Avenue, neighborhood guy, raised in the street, learned martial arts, owned nightclubs in my 20s. Guy got stabbed in the neck in one of the clubs that led me to go study martial arts, and then found out that I was a fish that could swim, basically. Got out there and just came up in the martial arts. And now I have a security company. I've done movies for 25 years. You've been seeing me do films. Analyze This, what's one of the big ones with De Niro, everybody usually remembers you from. But and now I have a security company in Los Angeles, and I handle all the nightclubs, restaurants, high-end executive protection, celebrity protection, things of that nature.
that's incredible, Vince. And Vince, let's start your story. Let's go way back. Let's go back to the Bronx. So, folks, if you can tell the difference in the accents, it's only an hour and a half away. But I'm from South Philadelphia. I'm originally from South Philadelphia. I have a Philadelphia accent. Vince has a Bronx, New York accent. So slightly
Bronxese.
Bronxese. That's incredible. So, Vince, let's go back to the old neighborhood. Can you tell us a Bronx tale? What happened like the first 10 years, 15 years of your life? Like, how was that growing up in the Bronx?
Actually, when I grew up in the Bronx, I remember a guy tried to mug us about 2 blocks from the house, 2 kids, me and my kid sister, coming back from the candy store. And I think that was when I got to 7. So they moved us down to Florida at 7. Oh, wow. And then I spent 10 years in Florida and went back to the Bronx at 17 to go back to acting school in Manhattan. But as a child, I started at 7, 10 years down in Florida, then back to New York. And then another bunch of years in New York, going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Manhattan and Madison Avenue, and kicking around New York again for years.
Well, I didn't know that, Vince. What part of Florida were you living at?
We first moved down we were in a place called Coconut Creek, Florida, which is where the Hard Rock Casino is. My mom was actually a vice mayor of Coconut Creek at one time. She was very active as an activist as far as helping everyone, community stuff. She would help everybody, whoever needed it. She was one of those community, always helping everybody, and then eventually went into, neighborhood politics, became a vice mayor until, she passed.
Sorry to hear that, Vince. For a moment, though, I was actually thinking about the movie Karate Kid. when the guy moved out to California, he was getting in trouble. His mom moved him out there. Were you moving out there because you were getting in trouble, or just?
Are you talking about Florida?
Yeah, Florida.
I moved to Florida was because they tried to mug us, kidnap us in the neighborhood. My dad wanted to get us out of the neighborhood at that time with all the things that were going on. So that's why we had left. I first got to Florida, I was 8.
Wow. And
then I came back again at 17. I think I went back when I was in my 20s, late 20s.
Was there any particular reason that you got involved with martial arts? I don't know about you, like, just a preface to that question. There's a lot of martial artist guys that I met over the years. There was always a story. And I was talking to Ed Connors about this a few weeks ago. There's always a story of like something that happened in childhood. They were getting picked on or something like that. Some moment or a series of moments that they just got fed up. And they're like, you know what? Like, I'm going to learn how to fight. And actually, most of them wanted like love superheroes for some reason. They love the comic books and all that stuff. Anything in particular from your childhood that might stand out with regards to that question?
Well, I was a street guy, like I said, so I did collections for certain people when I got older. And in that is how I owned the first holographic nightclub in Florida in 1997. And this was in Coconut Creek. It's actually right across the street from the Hard Rock Casino, Coconut Creek, where it is. And it was 10,000 square feet holographic club called Club Illusions. It was the #1 Latin club in Dayton, Broward County. My guys wore tuxedos to work. I'd have 1,200 people in the room. You know, it cost you $20. In 1997, it cost you $20 a head to walk in my club. So I give you an idea where we were. I paid, I had 12-piece orchestras there. I had Tito Puente I paid on my stage. For Tito, I gave him $7,500 for a 45-minute set. I had Nestor Torres come play on my stage. So we had first-class entertainment. I would catch in these guys on their tours, and then I'd give them an extra night to come play my club on the back, and they'd pick up some extra money, and we'd have these unbelievable guys. So in that, during one of the nights, I had a 4 a.m. club. There was another club that closed at 2 a.m. And so you naturally, in those last 2 hours, you make as much as you make in the first 6 hours, right? When you get the big push. And a fight had broke out at the first club, and it carried over. And this guy got in the club and stabbed a band leader in the neck right on stage in front of 1,200 people. Wow. So I had a bunch of bouncers that were big guys, and I thought that that's what you needed. Like when you're first learning things, you think you know what you need, and then you get hit in the face with reality, and you'll find out real quick what you need is not what you thought you needed. So the minute that these guys saw arterial blood coming out, you know, out of the guy's carotid, guys were passing out, losing it. And I've been carrying a gun since I'm 21 legally. I have a CCW all the time. And I had a gun on me that night. And literally, when a guy's in the middle of stabbing a guy, you can just shoot him, but you might as well sign over your club. And you got 1,200 people in a room. Really, what are you, Wyatt Earp? You're going to draw a gun and shoot a guy? I mean, think about the realities of what you ran into. So the next day after that, we dealt with the situation, luckily, and it was just the one guy got hurt. But after that, I went out and found a martial arts school and started diving into martial arts. And the first school that I ever found was a jiu-jitsu school. So in that, I started, I didn't believe in martial arts before. I must tell you, I had known a lot of guys, and when I had collected in the streets, and I had seen my dad, even my dad was a guy from the Bronx. My dad, Bonnie, he was a 5'11" and a half figure. The guy wore a 62 jacket. Wow. 62. He was 350 pounds. He's one of these guys, a Brahma bull from the Bronx with those giant arms. Like, you know, yes, he was a fat guy, but he was so big and solid. Forget about it. He was like one of those guys. And I remember many times watching Pop as I was growing up, open hand smack guys that were out of line. Like one guy was grabbing some kids, messing with the kids. Actually, once he did it with us when we were walking down from the candy store. Guy was trying to take our yo-yos, I'll never forget. And we just right outside the house on right there. And I think this is Paulding Avenue. And we're just walking down the street, and he didn't know that was my dad out there cutting the hedges. And this guy's trying to take the yo-yos. So me and my sister, my dad says, kids, go inside. And we run inside, we go up to the top, and we look down. And there's my dad saying, so you want to mess with kids? You like to play with kids, do you? And I watch this guy slap it. Bing! He give him a shot, Tony. I watch this guy spin. He got and all the way down the block, because, you know, in New York, in the Bronx, you got those hills, you know, to go down. He's slapping that guy. That guy's going down the street, spinning him down the street. And I was like, holy mackerel. It's the first time I ever seen a guy just get, you know, slapped around like that. And then he had done it 10 more times in my lifetime after that. So I remember, you know, I came from that. I'm not from seeing that as a child, seeing like, this is how you deal with bad guys. You know, people want to hurt people, but guys like this put them back in check, if you know what I mean. So my dad, being that way, kind of, you know, he wasn't a loving, hey, I love you kind of guy. He was like, hey, toughen up, you know, in a good way. Mm-hmm. But, you know, because of that, the clubs, I started with the martial arts. I got into it. I found out I was good at it. And then I started getting out there, and I realized that I was invited to all these bigger and bigger events. And then I started teaching. And then 9/11, I was asked to go to Fort Bragg and work with some special people at the School of Special Warfare. And I taught some things that were used. I can say this. The things that I taught were used during the Gulf War for extracting high profile, let's say high profile individuals to get information. That's as much as I can say. And that's where like I started. And then after that, I did a lot of, assisting with the military teaching. Fort Irwin. I'm on the National Training Center now. I'm civilian counterpart for combat tactics at Fort Irwin to the Black Horse Battalion, who are teams that warm up everybody before they go overseas to fight. You have to come through Fort Irwin. And it's a fully operational base with a 20,000-foot ceiling. They do war games, tanks, they do everything out there, man. So me and Cynthia, Don Wilson, and Bob, Dr. Bob, they picked us up on a Black Hawk helicopter at Burbank Airport. We all got on a Black Hawk, flew out there, dropped in, dusted off, and went and did door knocking and military exercises all day long. It's insane.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I just think is incredible. Like you've got so many different areas that are just fascinating about your life, Vince. So when did you first, you were telling that story, when was that? Like what age was that when you first decided that the knife fight happened and you're ready to go into the martial arts?
I had the club in my 20s. I was in my 20s when it happened. Okay. I never started martial arts. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I regress because I was telling you why my dad slapped open a guy. I didn't believe in martial arts. And one time this guy was stalking a girl who was a friend of my sister's, and he kept showing up. He was a creepy guy. And I'll never forget, he drove a Dolly Madison truck. Remember those trucks, Dolly Madison, the cake trucks? And then they had told this guy, we're Italians. When they give you a message, you usually better listen to the message, or the next message ain't going to be so good. I don't got to explain that to people who come from the Northeast. So we told the guy, stay away from the girl, leave the girl alone, stop it. And then he decided to show up one more day. I remember him calling us and saying, this guy's here, and the girl's, he's outside her house right now. And my father goes down there with another guy, and they grab the guy, and the guy comes out. He's got a giant cowboy hat on, right? And this is all I remember about this fight. He's got this big ass white cowboy hat on. And my father says, evidently, the messages we send you aren't affecting you enough to be smart enough to leave the kids alone. You want to still keep bothering kids. So maybe this message you're going to understand, right? And the guy goes like this, oh, what? And he gets into this Shotokan fight stance low. And he goes, I'm a black belt. Like that. My father looks, he goes, hey, black belt this, and slap this guy. The cowboy hat's still rolling, Tony. It's still going 20 years later. That's how hard he hit him. I never meant it. The cowboy hat rolled like a tumbleweed,
It's still rolling 20 years later.
I'm telling you. He gave that guy such a shot. The minute he said, I'm a black belt, my dad gave him such a shot. Forget about it. You're lucky his head didn't end up in Hoboken. I'm telling you. And I didn't believe in that. People said, I'm a black belt, I'm this, I'm that. And then I watched tough guys in the street just smack them around while they're trying to stretch out or take their shirt off. Wait, the fight's going to happen in a minute. Let me take my shirt off. Wait. Come on. You kidding me or what? Who does that in the real world?
Yeah, well, that's the old school. That was the old school, like karate and stuff. So we're going to talk about the history of martial arts in a little bit and how it's evolved to actually catch up with exactly what you're talking about, street fighting and the things that work. So yeah, absolutely, Vince. That's a great story. And by the way, we've already had his sense of Vince's humor. That's why he's also a comedian too. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Vince got some funny stuff he's done. So Vince, just go back to your story. So in your 20s, you had the nightclub. At what point did you start transitioning into, because you eventually owned your own Japanese jiu-jitsu like dojo, I guess, right? When
I
did
had
you
2 schools in California.
move to California, by the way? Let's maybe back up for that.
I got here literally October, think about this date, October 2001. And we got hit September 11th, 2001.
Was that planned?
Right? So I had just moved here, and all my friends, my kids like my brother, Leo Velasquez, he was my father in the martial arts. He's the first guy that ever taught me anything, brought me in, and, showed me, if it wasn't for this guy, for Leo, I wouldn't have known what a martial artist is supposed to act like. By watching him act and the way he was selfless and the things that he did, I thought I had never been around anything like that, because I've been around street guys my whole life who would just pick up a gun or this. I never been around a guy who's honorable. Later on, when I had the nightclub, the guy stayed in my house, and literally, I remember I had to go somewhere on a hop to do something. I left like 25,000 in cash on my dresser, and the guy, I came back, I seen him. I said, why do you look so like you're skinny? What's that? He said, well, no, I didn't have the money to go out and eat. I said, you didn't have the money? I got 25,000 sitting right there on the thing. Why didn't you just grab $100 and go buy some, get whatever you want? He said, oh, no. I don't touch anything that's not mine. If you leave 25,000 around a street guy, good luck. You come back, you find a pair of socks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't know it was yours.
But this guy, he stayed in my house when I went and do what I had to do. The point is that I learned that there is truly such a thing as an honorable, real samurai lifestyle code that some of these guys take incredibly serious. And if you mess with them, listen, I was in the club, what's the name of Al Baker's club. Al Baker and the guy had it in club on North Miami on 135th Street, 163rd Street, Versailles Club, Facades. Remember Facades? The big club?
No, I didn't spend that much time down Florida.
Okay. Anyway, there's a big club down there called Facade that was owned by these people. And we got invited to go there one day. Just to tell you a story. You know if these people are going to love these stories, because you can't never say this stuff unless somebody's recording minutes. So we go down there, and this one guy had told somebody to F off over a bookmaking thing, and they gave him a beating. I seen him 3 weeks later. He looked like he just took the beating yesterday. It was so bad. His head was like this. So we show up, Tony, and the guy tells me, go. The guy, as soon as he sees us show up in the car, the guy runs for his life. They recognize the Ferrari. The guy runs away. And the old man tells me, go catch him. Go get him. Tell him to come back. Tell him it's okay. Everything's fine. Anyway, they introduce us to go down to this club. And getting back to this guy, Leo. We go down, we get in the club. It's me, it's my wife, my sister's pregnant. The guy, Al Baker, comes. We pull up in the limousine, stretch limousine. We pull up, there's 1,000 people outside in a line. And I got Leo with me and them. And they say, well, just look at this line. I said, buddy, we don't wait in any lines. Just pull right up to the front. Go up and tell that guy in there. Tell him that Vinny's out here. Tell him to get the guy. So he gets the guy. They come out, they get us. We still go right in. They put guys around us. We walk up to the champagne room. He comes up. He puts down 2 bottles of Taittinger Rosé for the girls, gives all the girls flowers and little bears, puts us in a premier spot. And when you're looking over the dance floor of the Facade, you're on the 3rd floor and you're looking down. So during this point, my wife says she wants to go dance. I said, I want to go dance. So we go down and dance. They surround me with bodyguards, put it all around, right? I look up and there's this guy with his leg over the rail, 20-something feet up, thinking that I'm getting jumped. He don't recognize that these guys are there to make sure nothing happened to us, because Al sent them. He's thinking guys are surrounding me. I'm about to get jumped, and he's got his leg over the rail, about to drop 20 feet into the middle of a group of guys to fight them. Whoever have you heard done such a thing?
Oh, this was your sensei?
This was Leo. This is the kind of guy I'm telling you. These guys will jump off a freaking building and land just to fight. They got that mentality. They don't got money, but man, are they committed to their actions.
Wow. What did he do? How'd you get him down?
I go, what are you doing? Put your leg back in the rail. He goes, those guys, I go, they're making sure nothing happens. This guy, if something happens to me in here, that guy's got to answer for it. He just took a beating. He don't want no more problems.
Wow.
That's the kind of thing. Who does that? What friend is that loyal?
Was Leo, when I met you that one time in the martial arts conference?
You've never met him.
No, okay, because I think there was another Leo in here. And,
yeah, these guys I've been outside away from these guys for about 15 years. They were when I first started.
Okay. Wow. So that was your first like martial art academy that you joined with Leo, right?
Correct.
And that was in
and
Florida?
My schools in Florida and in Los Angeles. I had one on Lankershim Boulevard, right across from Valley Martial Arts Supply Company, which has been there since the 72. And then I had another one on Burbank Boulevard between Vineland and Cahuenga, right across from Gene LaBelle School. Gene LaBelle and Gokar were across the street, and I was teaching combat jiu-jitsu over here.
Wow. So your first school was in 1972, the one that you owned?
No. My first school was here when I got here in 2000. And
my
first school was in, I think, 2006. I opened my first school.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And second one, I think I opened in 2012.
So you still have the two dojos?
No, because remember, I got hit by a car after that. I had a traumatic brain injury and everything went down. I had to relearn how to walk and talk and my motor skills. It took me, I went through like 4 years of rehab.
You want to tell us about that? That story? When did that happen, Vince?
You have to forgive me because dates get mixed up in my head a little bit since I had that injury. So I get these faded timelines. But when it happened was I was on my way to perform on Memorial Day at the Comedy Store. I was scheduled to go up after Jeff Ross. You know Jeff Ross, he does all the roasts, the guy who does all the roasts. Yeah. So it was Jeff Ross and myself. This was when Joe Rogan was still at the Comedy Store. And him and the guy Mencia were having the big war over all the material. That's when this was all going on. Anyway, I'm pulling up and a cab from the Hyatt next door jumps off the cab stand, T-bones my truck right in front of Comedy Store on Sunset between Comedy Store House of Blues, tips my truck all the way over. The truck flips back. My head goes through the window and I get a brain bleed here.
Oh, man.
I didn't even know I was bleeding inside. I was like just out of it. Like if somebody ever cracks you in the head real hard, you'll understand. There's a fog that goes with it. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm in that fog and I remember the officer asking me for some information. I couldn't even find none. I went up on stage and I was like, and nothing would come out right. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I still made stage, by the way. And I go, what the hell's going on? So I go home. I had just opened my new school on, that was the Burbank school. And it was called the No-Ho Dojo, North Hollywood, the No-Ho Dojo. And the next day I'm teaching a kids class. And one of my guys was a special forces medic that had just come out from overseas. And I threw a kick and I fell to the side. Well, I danced for years. I don't fall. I've got pretty good balance. And as soon as he saw me fall, he said, Shihan, I watched your eyes. When you started tipping, your eyes rolled back in your head. You have a neurological issue going on. I'm telling you right now, because that's what that is. And I shouldn't have slept the first night because they tell me I'm lucky I ever woke up.
Wow.
So I went back. They hooked me up with a neurologist and they did all the scans on me and they said, your brain is bleeding in the front. You have a pool of blood and we don't know. You can't do anything for 6 months. Don't touch a weight. Don't do anything. We're trying to see if we even have to go in there and drill a hole and get the blood out.
Man.
And I'm like, man, come on, really? You got to be kidding me. And then I noticed my speech was starting to go. And then my motor skills were starting to go. I was like, what's going on? He goes, because you have a brain injury and the blood is pooling in there and it's affecting your skills. So for 6 months, I laid on the couch and didn't do anything. And then you understand, like we talked about it, you know me, I know you. We're a very physical guy, okay? You tell me I can't do anything for 6 months, I can't lift a weight, I can't do a sit-up, or push, nothing for 6 months because I could start to rebleed, it could re-tear it open. The mental trauma you're going to take just from being told that is horrible. But then when you find out that you've been a dancer and a martial artist and everything has to do with precision, you know, hand motor skills, eye coordination, movement, and all of a sudden all of that's gone. And now you're like trying to talk as an actor, as a martial artist, as a teacher, as a comedian. Words are your money. So if you can't have words and thoughts and moments to catch those moments, then you're not going to work. So I couldn't speak right. And it took me years to get my speech and my motor skills back. And once I did, I started coming back up. The next, I think, I remember when I came out of it, it was 2007. I won, I got the Hall of Fame in 2007. I got 3 awards in 2007 after being gone for 6 years from that small point. And then I came back.
Vince, just want to step back. So you were driving that truck that hit you, right? You were in the driver's seat.
F-150, yep.
And the guy hit you, and then the other T-boned you. And then,
in other words, he was on a cab stand. He got a fare, and he decided to take off. He was an illegal alien here, no license, no nothing. His cousin let him drive the cab to try to make money, and the guy had no idea, didn't speak any English, just hit me, totaled me out, and then took me out of the game for 6 years. And the craziest thing was I had about 240,000 in medical bills, and they capped everything off at 100 grand. So I had to go through a bankruptcy and everything else, all because going to work.
wow. So the other part of that story I was curious about. So you actually went, you had a comedian speaking engagement that same night, and you went
Yes.
on stage in that
Yes.
condition. And how did they respond to you in the audience?
They thought I was like one of these guys that just really talks like that, and they thought it was amusing.
Wow.
Well, laugh, I'll tell you the truth. Not during this time, but later on, I had at the Comedy Store, Moses Powell, who's a guy out of New York, who's a legendary martial artist. He taught many of the guys. He's one of the original guys. You can look him up. He's my teacher. I went him 17 years. Okay, I got a 4th-degree black belt directly from Moses Powell. Moses Powell sent me out there. There's a guy out here. We're running around with his card saying he's a grandmaster under him. So Dr. Powell told me, go get this guy and straighten him out. So I said, okay. This guy had been calling my students, trying to use my students to show that he's this great martial artist because I developed great uki, so I make him look good. So we grabbed the guy and I asked him, I says, finally, I'm looking for this guy for like 3 months. I'm on stage at the Comedy Store and this guy pops in. He's Eddie Griffin's bodyguard. He comes in and he looks like he's in the Matrix with the hat, with the glasses and the leather jacket. He's wearing dark glasses in the middle of the night. I get on stage, Tony, hand to God. I get on stage and imagine if you've been hunting a guy for 3 months and the minute you get on stage, they introduce you at the Comedy Store. You look and there he is in the doorway. And now you got to get your hands on this guy. So,
don't tell me you did.
I swear to God, look, this is stuff only you don't even see this stuff in movies. I get up on stage, I go, yo, I go, don't you move. I've been looking for you for 3 months. And everybody looks back at him. He goes like this, like he's cute. I said, it ain't cute. I'm looking for you for 3 months. You stay right there. I'll be right there. I go, folks, I'm supposed to be funny, but I'm looking for this guy for 3 months and I got to go get him. And the audience is peeing their pants. They think this is all a stage setup. They have no idea. I go, thank you and good night. I did like 4 minutes. I put the microphone down. I go, you get outside. I took him in the back in the alley. I said, no, come with me to the alley in the back behind the Comedy Store. This is where they put the cars and there's the from the mountain that comes down. it's real dark and it's just us and nobody's around and nobody's going to see nothing. It's just me and this big guy. I said, I've been told to deliver you a message out here. I said, so I do everything in my power to get this guy to jump after everything he's been doing. He won't move. He won't pick his hands up. He won't do anything. And I just said to him, so you're the biggest, fakest, tough guy in the world out there posing. I'm in here telling you all this stuff and you don't do anything. Get out of here.
That's great. That's crazy. And Vince, here's the dangerous part about it. Like you said, you just had a major accident. Who knows what's going on in your brain? You got probably blood dripping in there, and you couldn't kick as you tried just a few days ago after that. Like, if you imagine if you would got in a fight with him, thank God you didn't, because that could have been
this was after I was healed. This was another time. I'm just saying to you that.
Okay.
This is like another story of shit that goes on. Sorry, Doug, I don't know if you can, but this is like the things that goes on in life. You asked me like what life is like.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I got this crazy life like that. You know what I mean? You know, I get a call from a big time producer here in Hollywood one day. The guy did, I'm not going to say his name, but he did 300, Dark Knight, Batman. He was the head of Legendary Films. They shot a movie overseas and Scott Glenn punches out one of his producers. He calls me and says, I need you to show up at this guy's house. I said, why? He says, if Scott Glenn comes over there, I need you to kick his ass.
What?
I said, man, that's Scott Glenn. I like Scott Glenn. What are you talking about? But that's the kind of reputation you get from being out here and doing that kind of work.
Oh, wow. So Vince, when did you wind up recovering? Around 2007, 2008 from that injury?
That one took till 2012.
2012.
2007. Like the first one was 2007. I had two injuries. One was a motorcycle. One was the car. One was a traumatic injury. The other was where I crushed my right side of my body between the bike. A girl hit me on a jet on my motorcycle. So I got crushed in between the two cars. That's how I got torn biceps and torn triceps and stuff from that accident. And then I just rebuilt my whole body. They told me that not to do martial arts anymore, that I couldn't do it, that my body couldn't take it. And I just, you know, I don't listen to the experts when they tell me about me.
That's a brilliant line. I like that. You're the expert of you. There's only one other you, right? So
yeah, what do they know from you? They know. What do you know? What do you know from me? I've got on my feet in a fight, or anytime I've ever got knocked down, run down. We're trained. Get on your feet. The guy said to me in the motorcycle, I said, don't move because your neck could be broken. I said, I got to get on my feet. He says, get on your feet. I said, listen, I got to get on my feet. I got to know that I can walk. I got to know my back ain't broke. You understand? I got to do that for my own mental saneness after such a traumatic accident. You know, guys telling you your spine could be affected, all this. No, let me get on my feet. I'll tell you if my spine is affected. You stop telling me what you guys are going to tie me down one of those things, put your thing in the head. I said, no.
So you came back from two major accidents. Wow. I didn't know that, Vince.
And the first one where I got hit by the car was before the brain, or one, like I told you, the two lines, but I had already done the statue.
Ah.
So I posed for the statue. It was a perfect, exact body duplicate. And then I got hit by a car.
Wow. So you wound up closing the gyms down because you couldn't keep
I
up
lost,
with it.
I lost all of that. I had put all the money I made in commercials because I had 5 national commercials out there. Actually, I've done about 30 national commercials that you've seen me for years, but I had 5 of them on the air at the time, all constantly running. I took all that residual money and opened a school instead of borrowing money.
What was after that, money-wise, for you after you came back? Like, what
come back out of it. I had to come back out of it.
And what was your next business though after that? You went back into the
martial. No, as soon as my name got up there, then I went teaching everywhere. I got tons of calls to go teach different departments, different cadres of men, security professionals, you know. Private security, I was teaching tactics to private security companies for what they need to know for today for hands-on.
What's your degrees in martial arts? You said your 4th degree black belt. That's what, Japanese Jiu-jitsu?
I have a 4th degree black belt in Sanukas Jiu-jitsu, which is Moses Powell's thing. I trained with Master V but I'm not ranked in Jiu-jitsu, but it's part of the VSK family. And I have a 4th degree black belt in Temiru Jiu-Jitsu, which is out of Dr. Phil Chinique out of Miami. So 2 4th degree black belts. Now people say, I don't understand. How can you only be a 4th degree black belt? Well, because Moses Powell died. As I was getting my 5th, he died. So, and that was years ago. So it's at least 15 years now. So when you think about it, what degree is that's why I created AOSJ, because there would, in other words, if you maintain that you taught with Sanukas, there's another 800 guys out there that are 10th degree black belts, not 800, but 800 black belts. And then you got a bunch of 10th degree black belts, and they all have seniority over you, and you got to, for the rest of your life, it's like, look up to these guys that there's no reason, because you were with the master, not with them. But all of a sudden, because they're the ones running it, you have to kick up to them and follow them. I don't know any of these guys. So I started my own thing, American Old School Jiu-Jitsu. And what I did was take out, a lot of these guys, they got to package things just to sell. We understand in finance, you have to have a product or something to sell, a service, whatever. But if your service is to teach, I was a dancer for years. So when you're teaching me forms, katas, I understand why you're doing them. There's something called the bunkai, which is why you do the moves you're doing. In other words, why is the person attacking you? Then how is their attack and what is your response? Well, here's the problem. First off, people talk about muscle memory. There's no such thing as muscle memory. There's a brain memory and a reflex arc, and that's what happens. Your brain is the computer that sends out the message, the reflex arc that makes your body react to whatever you do. Your muscle alone, without brain activity, cannot initiate anything without the brain sending a signal. And people say, I got muscle memory. No. The muscle doesn't have memory like that. It's your brain, and because you do a certain movement over and over and over, the 2 points become they fire faster because they're getting more use instead of just one every once in a while. And it's it. And if you do it again and again and again, now that chain, that firing is wide open. And what happens is, you have faster connectivity, faster eye-hand speed, faster remember, and that's when people are mastering these things. It's a brain synapse retraining, and then it goes to the body. When you deal with muscle memory, Tony, muscle memory, when you discuss it as a muscle, is I tore my bicep, right? Ripped it, and let's say it took me, just argument's sake, let's say it took me 5 years to build my arms to get them to like 19 inches. Okay, right? My arms were 22. What's his face had 25-inch arms. Mine have been up to 22. I'll send you a picture of me and Chef Rutsch with the 22-inch arms. I train with him now. We're going away to Dr. Bob's mansion, the 5 of us, special guys, to do a workout with all the grandmasters.
I got to get your club, Vince. Sorry to pause for a moment. That's an amazing club. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. You got an incredible team of just all stars, all sorts.
They've been very good to me. People have been very good to me, and they've opened up their world to me, and I'm very thankful for everything. And there's one thing I forgot to say, but forget everything else. God's given me everything I've gotten. I never got a thing without God. And believe me when I tell you, there's not a one thing that I've ever done without God helping me. So that's that. I live that more of a spiritual existence, no matter what the street sounds like to you, that's coming out. I try to live that kind of a life, if you know what I mean. But anyway, going back to the muscle memory of your bicep, if you'd have torn it, and it took you, let's say, 5 years to get to 19 inches. When you rebuild it, you could get back to the 19 inches in 2.5 years, because it's already been physically at that size. It just went atrophied. But you can, with protein synthesis and caloric intake, you can then raise your muscle back to the size it was. That is the definition of muscle memory, if you had to put a definition on it, a classification. But when people are talking about, oh no, it's muscle memory. That's how we work. We learn to pull a gun, muscle memory. They're really, it's like a doctor telling you he's gonna do a colonoscopy on you, and then he looks in your eye. You know what I'm saying?
Did we say Vince was funny? That's hysterical.
Why are you looking in my eye? If you give me a colonoscopy? You follow?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. So I went to massage therapy school for 750 hours. I did a 6-month class. I got I'm not a master's at it, but I graduated top of my class. I had to do 275 massages before I could even graduate, free ones. I mean, but here's another thing. I did that when I was coming out here to make sure I had a second way of living in case the acting didn't take off. I wanted to make sure I could do massage therapy because I was real good at it, and big guy, strong hands. But what it actually taught me, it made me a much better martial arts teacher because I learned the human body and all the 40 systems of the human body through studying this therapeutic system. I learned about the organs. I learned about cellular mitosis. I learned intergluterations. I learned all the Chinese meridians, the points. And then I got into pressure points, which ended up being the greatest thing that you could use for executive protection. Instead of coming up grabbing a guy, you come up, tap on the pressure point, he lets go of your primary.
I commend you on that, Vince. Just to jump in for a second, I did something very similar doing the martial arts. That, you know, if you learn about, like, for the survival book, you know, I stepped back. I mean, I went back studying anatomy, physiology, all the things that medical doctors do. And that was as a consequence of starting with martial arts. Really, like, it was like, okay, well, how can I be better? Well, the only way to be better really is to understand the body. Because if you want to be great martial scientist, you got to understand how this body moves. And I'm talking, let's rip it apart. Let's look at it from the inside out and see, what do I got? I mean, I didn't even know where, like most people, they don't know what her elbow is. I tell you what your elbow bone is, right? Like most people, that they they think it's over here. It's actually the bone in your forearm, right? Like most people.
Well, your elbow is a hinge joint. Your elbow is actually a hinge joint. It's the end of your ulna, the
end of your ulna bone, exactly. Yeah, your radial and your ulna, but most people think it's the bone over here, you know. And same with the digits on your fingers. They think that, like I say, how many fingers are in your thumb? How many digits are in your thumb? And people don't know. It's actually 2, and there's 3 on your other fingers. But most people don't understand basic points. What was the point I'm trying to make? Basic things about their anatomy that they stare at every day, but they can't answer that question. You know, like they don't know that you have a floating bone in your throat. Like, how do you not know that? They don't know the smallest bones are in your ear. So understand that it's all connected. And you were doing the right thing by stepping out. You're learning about the muscles by doing the massage. You're learning where the different muscles are, and this will help you when you get hurt. You'll know which muscle.
Also the bones. You got to know all the bones, the 202 bones in the body.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to break them, you got to know how to do that.
Yeah.
But with the massage therapy, what that does teach you, though, like you said, learning the human body. When I teach I use medical terminology. My students are always like, you know, I go to the doctor now, and the doctor tells me something, and I understand every word he's saying just because I took martial arts class. And you know, how many guys actually teach using medical terminology? Like, I'll tell you exactly, like with the weapon, when we engage the weapon. I know we're going to talk about it later, but where the weapon engages, the style and process of the ulna or the radius bone for a non-compliant subject to get him back into compliance. Those areas, that style and process, that little C bone on each side is a reason your hand doesn't break off to the side. It's a little piece of C bone, like that little tiny little bone. And all you got to do is snap that bone. The guy's hand is useless. Simple. Take out the spark plugs. The car doesn't move.
All right, Vince, it's been great stuff. I think to round up the story, though, before we get into the questions, do you want to do a quick show and tell of, you got so many diplomas on that wall. Totally your call if you want to just tell us a little about that and anything else you'd like to show us, and round off the story if there's another story you wanted to conclude with to round that base.
I salute all the men and women in uniform and all that work for all our servicemen and women, and in any branch that they are. And I believe that 99.9% of our people are true blue good guys. that really want to do the right thing. And I have never been in the military. I have never claimed to be in the military. I just have a skill set the military used and hired me to go in. And like all things, whenever you want to go to something that you don't know, you usually go to the private sector and find a guy, and then the military, you know, they bring you in. So that's where I want to be very clear, because there's a lot of people claiming that they're military this or military, and I never, ever claimed to be in the military. I've claimed to teach the military many times in many different places, but never did I have the honor of being in the military. My life just wasn't like that. But from the Army, like this is what the last one I got from Sergeant Trice. This is for, I support so much of what I do with the Army and the Black Horse Battalion and Fort Irwin and Fort Bragg and the Marines down in Pendleton, because I work with the Marines. I know you can't see over there, but we'll show you over my right shoulder. I have in 2016, I taught the active shooter response to 700 staff sergeants and military police at command here in Los Angeles, and it's the Rough Riding Battalion. Then I have the blue there is from Congress. That's a congressional thank you for my work with the military. Letter underneath it is an endorsement letter from supervisory special agents of the FBI, where thanking me for teaching the FBI out here in Los Angeles, equipping them, teaching them advanced arrest and control. And I was invited to Quantico to become an instructor. I was an FAA safety consultant after 9/11, which is where my weapon came from, because I knew that the flight attendants were our first responders to any situation. They're out there with the public and nobody was helping them. So the FBI gave me some intel after 9/11, which sent me to the congressman. The congressman sent me to the FAA. I met a gentleman over there that was a supervisor with the FAA. They made me an FAA safety counselor out of Los Angeles, the LAX FISDO. So that from 2001 to 2005, which is when the hot years were after 9/11, I was always on a plane. I carried my FAA badge. I was always on a plane, and I was always teaching flight attendants in mock-up facilities and teaching sky marshals and things like that. That's so the one up top, way up top there, is my Aviation Counselor of the Year award. So 3,500 counselors in America, every one of them are pilots except for me. And in 2004, I was Aviation Safety Counselor of the Year for the United States. So these are things that to anyone else doesn't mean anything, but to me and to one day we have to all answer for what you did in this lifetime. You're going to end up having to sit in front and say, what did you do with this lifetime? Were you selfish? Did you serve? What did you serve? Did you serve your own selfish interest, or did you serve people, humanity? You know, and through the martial arts, being in the streets, I understand the dark side of life very much. And then I've met people who were true spiritual people. And I got to tell you, to serve is the greatest thing you can do. To give your time to people who you know they can't afford you but need you, to serve and help the military wherever. Even when we were going through COVID, I was feeding military families. I had an in for food, and I was picking up tons of food. And these guys who were going into the military, these kids sign up as a way to get out of the hood, to go into the military, but their families are still poor and hungry. So through the recruiters, we found out which families had no food, which servicemen needed food, and we went and took loads of food to the family. And they did it for 2 years, all through the heavy COVID. So nobody knows how we do that. Everybody just thinks, oh, you're making movies, you're doing this thing. Nobody has any idea of all the background service that we do. And then my Hall of Fames, that down there is where I taught at Fort Bragg. I got my first coin from Kevin Leonard from General. And the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, where 70 of the U.S. federal agencies do their training, Secret Service, ATF, Customs, everybody except for the FBI and the DEA train there. And then you get put to your particular cadre that you're going to work. So I went there and I taught instructors at arrest and control there. So what else do we have here? My Black Belt article, Martial Arts History Museum. Guys, the Martial Arts History Museum is phenomenal. Michael Matsuda, it's the only one in the world that's totally dedicated. What?
Sorry to interrupt you. When did that open?
1999.
Wow.
So it's around the corner here, and we're having Dragon Fest at the Glendale Auditorium on August 31st. And that was what my Vince Cecere day. I got one, Don Wilson got Gene LaBelle. You know, when they honor you with your own day at the museum, they're saying something. That's also the guy who wrote the book on me that I gave you, the book of Vinnyisms.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was Michael, the museum. So that's what this one is for. And this was this is Dr. Powell right there. The old man, Master V, Dr. Powell. There was Sifu Kwok from, Sifu from the UK, the guy who's Ip Man's guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like everywhere you look in this room, everything means something. It's all tangible, but it's all. I remember meeting a Delta guy once, and he took me into his room and he showed me a piece of a helicopter blade that broke off during the thing and almost decapitated him. And he brought it home and he had it up on the wall and he said, "This almost killed me, this thing, when it snapped off. So when it missed me, I went and picked it up and I keep it on my wall to remind me that this almost took my life." He said, and it was his I Love Me room. He showed me all the things. And the guy gave me a couple of things that you're not supposed to talk about. And as an honor, as a thank you, as a brother trying to teach another brother combatant stuff. So very, very proud of my work with the military and with, helping law enforcement and helping. And we work with a lot of abused women, taught tons of, housewives and daughters and sisters that have been abused by their husband or, anybody who's in need that we can help. Martial arts cures your brain. It's a body, mind, and spirit. You know this, Tony. It's body, mind, and spirit to be in balance. Who cares if you're a great fighter if you don't know how to serve and do anything else behind that? You want to know? I see these guys, everybody wants to be a tough guy. Oh, I could fight this. I won this thing. I won this championship. I did that. And I would say to them all the time, how many times have you ever stepped into a cage with a guy when he pulled a knife on you? Can you explain that to me? Tell me when you got into a match anywhere that the guy actually pulled a knife on you in a cage and you had to fight him. Oh, that doesn't happen because it's a sport. Thank you. That's the whole purpose I'm trying to get across. We deal with guys who pull guns and knives and bat to hit you with a chair, anything. And you don't have that in the tournaments, in the sports. You got a medic, you got people, you got your manager, you got your team. Everybody's there to support you. Anything happens, they're going to stop it. You got refs. That's not the streets, man. Some guy steps up and just comes up behind you. Remember that you gave his cousin a beating 3 years ago and he's been laying for you. You better have your head on a swivel, man.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vince. No, Vince is beautiful. And yeah, martial arts has certainly changed my life. I mean, that's why, we connect so well. We know we might not be able to explain as well right now because it's so much more deeper than that. But it's just and it's not what people think it is. Martial arts, think, oh, it's violent. No, it's actually the opposite. It's look at that martial arts convention. Well, I love the joke that the guy said the last moment there. He said, "Yeah, we're surrounded by 2,000 martial artists, and you don't have to worry about safety here. Everybody here, you stand on their own."
I did stand up at the last one for Alan. He asked me to do a set at the last big thing. You know what I mean? It's like 2,000 people in the audience. And, you got 2,000 of the greatest martial artists in the world sitting in front of you, okay? Or up on this thing. So I pick up the microphone. The first thing I said was, well, let me tell you, with this audience, I better be funny or be a good fighter because somebody's going to try to give you a beating if you're not good.
That's funny.
You don't just get a bad review.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. All right, Vince. So thank you. Appreciate that, Vince. We're going to move into the next segment. We got about 20, 25 questions here. Figure about 1 to 2 minutes each. Some really good questions. Actually, some of them are extremely simple. Like the next one, actually, it's an overview of. I don't know if you have books. I did you say you had some books? If you want to tell us about your books and movies too, because I know you've done movies. So maybe just a quick, brief overview of that. Maybe 1 to 2 minutes.
This is my book that was done for me from the Martial Arts History Museum. Like I said, it's called Vince, my first book of Vinnyisms. The forward was written by my dear friend, Mr. Joe Mantegna.
Oh, wow.
Criminal Minds. And this is a segment from Joe. I just want to throw this out to you so you understand. This is just an extraction, you know how they put in the back of the book to say one statement, like if Joe had to say one statement. And probably the most interesting aspect of Vince is the dichotomy that he is. He has a soft heart, but it's also the heart of a lion. He is one of the most gentle humans I have ever known, yet arguably the most dangerous as well. Joe Mantegna.
That is awesome. When did that book come out, Vince?
The book came out about 2 years ago. Like I said, the museum one day, like we talked, and you say, like, Vinny, you can get it on Amazon, guys. You can go get it. It's like $20. Can I tell you what this book really is? This book is a spiritual journey. I wrote about all the things that happened to me in the acting world. This got nothing to do with the martial arts. This is about, I've had some incredible moments. Remember, I was on the Oscars with Ellen DeGeneres. I had the #1 commercial for the Oscars. I had a Super Bowl commercial that was one of the most banned commercials in America. I did Analyze This after they didn't want me, and I went in there and I scared the crap out of Harold Ramis for real, because he had guys come in as an actor, and I was still collecting when Analyze This happened. I pulled up in a convertible Corvette, and I was wearing my regular clothes, and they said, "Man, this guy dressed for the part." I go, "Dressed for the part? This is my clothes." What are you talking about? This is how I do everything. These guys are, this is where you heard me tell the story. I think I wanted to show you. Said,
yeah.
About when with Harold Ramis, how I got the job. I said, and they said, "Those are hitmen." I said, "Those are hitmen." I thought, those guys are tough guys. He says, "Yeah." I said, "Come on. What are you doing?" I said, "Put us all in a room, lock us in. The guy that gets out, give him the job."
That's funny.
But anyway, this book tells a bunch of stories. I was on Pritzi's Honor with Jack Nicholson. And oh my God, there were tons of big actors in it. But the point is, God allows you to have these great moments, and you have to be sharp enough and have the faith that he's opening this door for you. And you have to have the courage to step through it when it's open instead of hesitating. And the worst thing in the world, if you hesitate, like in a fight or in an action or any movement, you hesitate, your worst things ever come when you hesitate. Never hesitate. React, react, react. So in this book, there are stories that literally tell, you know, it's me and David Mamet had a moment. There's a lot of great things in here, but when you read it, you come away and go, wow, this guy is connected. Like, in other words, these things could not possibly just happen without some divine intervention. And now you get the people who say, well, I don't believe in any of those kind of things. Well, that's quite all right, because you don't have to, because I've lived through it and I've documented what I've lived through. Now, if you read it and you understand that possibly some of these things are happening in your life and you can't figure them out, but you can't figure out the guy's trying to help you. God's trying to help you, but you're not listening. We make too much noise sometimes. We move too much. Be calm, settle, listen. And it's amazing if you have faith, what can happen. You know, I heard a great line, Tony. Faith, when somebody knows something, like you know it for a fact, you don't have to have faith in it because it's a fact. You know it. Faith comes from not knowing for sure, but believing it so much, like that you believe that the air you breathe is there. Even though you can't see that air, without that air, you die. But you can't see it. But we all know it's there. Mm-hmm. Spirituality is like that. But people don't want to connect to it, don't want to face it, don't want to connect to it. They don't. Other people do want to connect to it and embrace it, and it changes their life. So this book is about these great moments, great stories. And when you read them, I was telling Michael at the museum some of these stories, and he said to me, you got to make a book. These are incredible. I said, I don't write books. Come on, I don't write a book. He goes, all you do is talk into the camera and we'll do everything on the dragon typing thing or whatever that is.
Oh, so they actually published it for you?
Yeah, I didn't do it. They did everything.
Oh, wow. That's great.
That's what I'm saying. Only because when you read it, I'll get you a copy, Tony. When you
Okay.
read the book, and I don't know if you have it or if I gave it to you already, King, it's been a
No,
minute.
I didn't know you had it. Yeah.
Oh, I'll send you one. When you read it, you'll go, holy mackerel. Wow. And you can check everything out because it's all documented wherever you want to check it out. But I've had these incredible moments, incredible moments. And there's no other way to explain it. You know, you're not just the luckiest guy in the world. You have faith, and having faith and walking in faith, things happen.
Mm. Thank you, Vince. And Vince, you want to also, by the way, check that book out, folks. Definitely, for sure. You said you get it on Amazon. How about
Vince Cecere, my complete book of Vinnyisms? It's not a coincidence. It's a Vinnyism.
We're kind of jumping ahead. That was one of my future questions. I'll hold that off because I heard a good story. I want to preface that question too. Vince, what about your movies though? Like, I know you've been in so many. Anything you want to just tell us, like just the highlights?
Well, I've been on Jimmy Kimmel since 2015. I do all the stuff. We did a bunch of hidden camera stuff. With this, we don't talk politics or anything like that on the show, but what I will say to you is that in the last two years, there are no roles for Italians, and there are no, with this, whatever cancel culture they got going on out there, anything that is not what they allow you to speak or say, you can't do anything that's uniquely ethnic, or it's literally like, I had commercials taken off the air because the Italian Anti-Defamation League of America says that we're making Italians look like gangsters. And I said, wait a minute, Italians were never gangsters? Do you understand?
Yeah.
The hypocrisy of trying to shut down what you already know exists in real life, and then trying to do this and say, no, it never existed. No, we never saw it. That's what's happening. And when that culture came in, I got to tell you, I don't like jumping through their hoops. I don't like going through all their moves. I don't like, they wanted you had to take this COVID test to audition. Then you had to get a vaccine if you wanted to even go talk to a cancer. Do me a favor. You can have it. Do it your way. Do whatever you want. I'll wait till the whole mess is over. And then I'll come back in again, and then we'll do it the way it's supposed to be. But right now, you know, the comedy is dead, right? You know, comedy's dead. You can't say anything. Look at Chappelle. He got attacked at the show. You can't say anything. So when you ask me about my movies, I did Analyze This. I did In the Shadows. I play mob roles left and right. I had 35 national commercials, almost all of them. I played a mob guy. Okay. Allied Bank, I played a mob guy. Bank of America, mob guy. Oh my God. My national Wendy's chicken sandwich, right? We're a bunch of guys sitting around talking about chicken sandwich. Nope, mafia. Got ready, pull it off the air.
Oh, they pulled all those commercials off the air?
Yeah, I had 2-year contracts on these. I get up to $100,000 on the contract. I had 5 of them pulled off the air because of people complaining about it from our own community. That's $500,000 an asset. How would it like if I said to you, hey, Tony, I know you made $500,000 on your Finance Life podcast, but you can't do it anymore because I don't like the color of your sign.
Yeah, it's a dangerous predicament.
But that was something that me and Larry talked about, you know, because I had to tell him, I said, listen, there's a lot of us that are getting rolled over, and we got to take it. And it affects how we eat and put food on the table. And at the end of the day, an actor's just trying to put food on the table. I mean, he's playing a role.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's an act. It's not a real thing. It's just an act.
Exactly. And then what happens is later on, now there's no Italian roles, right? And they say, how come you don't put more? How come more Italians aren't in movies? And I watch the same people say, how come they don't have any more Italians in movies? And I tell them right up, because of you people. Joe Montaigne told me the same thing. The same people that complain about Italian Americans playing Italian roles are the same people that call you in and ask you to come speak at their little conventions and stuff on the arm. The same people. It doesn't. we're not going to talk about all of those things, but at the end of the day, as an actor, that's how I make my money. And when you tell me that I can't play myself, I can't play an Italian, I can't play a street guy from New York, what am I going to play, a rabbi?
Vince, what just speaking just in general though, you know, I don't know much about the commercials. You said you can get paid about 6 figures for one commercial. Is that typical, or?
Look, if you're hooked into a Progressive commercial or a Toyota commercial, like they got that girl in the red dress, she's been on a Toyota commercial for years. As soon as they get one person that they like, I was picked for Goodyear for their whole campaign to play like a Tony Soprano. I shot the whole commercial. The director thought it was fantastic. And then they decided to shut it down because it made fun of Italians. It made Italians look too like the Sopranos. And they took my whole section out and sent me a thing said, we don't got to pay you no more. There's really something else behind that, but we can't talk about it because we don't talk about this. But at the end of the day, it's all politically charged.
All right, thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. Okay, so any other movies that you'd like to highlight before we move on to the next question? Maybe 10 seconds.
No, there's some great films out there that we did. We did a wonderful movie called The Fly Boys, which won 38 film festival awards back in 2008. Movie never got released, but it's one of the best movies you'll ever see, called The Fly Boys. If you can get your hands on it, go see it. It's magnificent.
Didn't you make a movie called The Bouncer or something? I remember you telling me this a few years ago.
Yeah, with Bill Murray's brother, John, is in it, and his other brother, Joel from Mad Men. Joel was my director.
Okay. And
I had a whole bunch of David Mamet's guys and guys from Second City that were in the movie with me. I wrote it, and it was actually, if you watch the short on it, because it's a 16-minute short I did, I was right after my brain injury got done, and you saw how I was doing this same fight scene. I did it like 18 times. We didn't get done until 3 o'clock in the morning where I picked the guy up and threw him. But you can see the difference in my physique, because you can see I just came back from 6 months of nothing, or whatever it was, 6 months of nothing. But then after that, little bit of rehab. But the rehab was nowhere near the training level of I had been used to. So your physique reflects that.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. Vince, we're going to move on to the next question. Before we do that, you want to take a quick, maybe minute or two pause, and then we'll come right back?
Yeah, let me do it. Hit the head real fast.
Okay. Thank you, Vince.
My coffee and.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Quick pause. You didn't even feel a thing. So yeah, we got Vince Cecere here, folks. Incredible interview. Master martial artist, amongst so many other things. We're now moving into the next chapter of this great podcast. We're going to talk about some of the celebrities that he's worked with. So Vince, I know you've worked with some amazing people. I mean, from Robert De Niro being the guy that actually killed him off and analyzed this, to all the superstars in the martial arts world and entrepreneurial world in LA and whatnot. You want to just name a few people and just feel free to name drop, totally your call. Just some highlights.
I will say I've met everybody that I've ever really wanted to meet. In other words, we have a wish list in our heart of people that we want to meet. And God's allowed me to meet everyone I've ever really wanted to meet. What I enjoy now is that I'm very close with, obviously, Joe Mantegna, but he has allowed me to meet the world through him as well, you know, with all of his friends and David Mamet and all the group and all the Chicago, New York guys in LA. There's more Chicago guys than there are New York guys in LA, because Chicago and LA, New York and Florida is generally the way it runs. But many of the people I've met here are bi-coastal people. And again, I don't, you say name drop. I don't know how to approach that. I just would say that I've protected quite a few highline individuals, and still do. And the reason that I have them is because I don't talk about them.
Is there a big Philly presence out there in LA?
Yes, but remember that in the last 2 years with the whole COVID fiasco, nothing is the same.
Yeah.
Look, the movie business, if you just talk about the movie business has changed so many times, it's unbelievable. With the onset of social media, right now, let's say you're a phenomenal actor, right? and you don't have any social media presence at all. And then they could take some kid off of YouTube that got 1 million hits because he petted a duck on YouTube. And he got 2 million hits. They'll give that guy a job because he can bring 2 million people to follow it. That's how the business art decision-making is done in LA now, which is every actor who's got chops can't stand it. My friend Mike Marino, you know Mike Marino, the comedian, New Jersey's bad boy, Mike Marino. You ever hear of him?
Yeah, I heard of him.
Anyway, Michael, we're at the place when he was just in town. We're at a big club, and Michael was the headliner. And all of a sudden, the club owner decides to put a guy on after Michael, who's been doing comedy for 2 months. Because the guy did some stupid, crazy thing on YouTube where he's got the gold teeth and 75 gold chains and the head. He's just like this thing that you look at like you look at it. It's like, okay, I see what he looks like. I see what he's doing. But it's like a fish will watch a lure for a minute and then it goes away, if you know what I mean. They put this guy on stage above Michael. And Michael's a headliner for 20 years. But because this guy got 2 million hits, he gave him a spot on stage. And then the guy killed the whole show because the show had a certain momentum. Big bang, bop, bop, bop. We're going. All of a sudden, they put this guy up because he was on YouTube. He gets up there, he starts talking. The room goes, wah! My friend walks out of there. I says to you, Mike, how you feeling? He goes, I hate this. He goes, I hate this business now. He goes, the way that they make decisions, some guy just eats lunch on YouTube and you give this guy a premier spot at a top nightclub? You got to be kidding. That's the decision making. It's all about how much social media attention you can generate across their spectrum, Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Thank you, Vince.
And now I think the thing is TikTok. They ask me about all of this. I tell them, I said, no, I got Instagram, I got all that, but they want you to, just not going to do that.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit too much at a certain point. It's like a full-time job.
Right. So that's the way the acting business is right now. Even if you're a star and you got a name, it doesn't mean anything because your star name doesn't guarantee anybody's going to come and watch it. It only guarantees now a small percentage. Who would have thought Maverick is the #1 movie in the world today? Who would have thought Tom Cruise would be back on top as the #1 guy? I had friends of mine tell me that Maverick is one of the best movies of all time. I haven't seen it yet.
That's amazing. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate that. All right, so Vince, next question. I think you're really going to like this. Is about coincidences. Simple question: do coincidences exist? But I want to just preface this question. I heard a story of when you were, I forget the name of the academy that you joined and you became a part of, something about acting, and you went in, it's like somebody told you, like you were walking with somebody, you're walking down the street and you're like, no, I got to go in this bar. They're like, you don't drink.
Oh,
and
the American
you're like,
Academy,
yeah, I got to go in.
Yeah, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Manhattan.
Yeah. So do coincidences exist? And you can reference that story if you want.
Okay. That story is in my book of Vinnyisms, one of the main ones that got his attention.
It's a great story.
The guy was Conrad Bain, the father on Different Strokes. That was who was in that bar that night. And are you asking me just to tell you about the story slightly, or do you want to just to answer your coincidence, what I believe in coincidence?
Well, yeah, let's start with the general question, but I think your story is a perfect example of what probably is going to be your response.
Okay, I don't believe that coincidence exists in the way that they use it as, oh, it's just coincidence, just coincidence. If you're in law enforcement or military personnel, yeah, coincidences, we don't believe in coincidences like that. You know what I mean? Usually there's a bad guy there. Okay, it's not just a coincidence. When the old timers used to tell me, you see a guy 3 times in a day, you're being tailed. You'll never see the same face 3 times in a day in the city unless you're being tailed. If you happen to run into that guy 3 different places on the same day, he's following you.
Right.
Not a coincidence. So with me, and I put it in the book, I believe in following your instincts, not a coincidence. Your instinct tells you something. If somebody doesn't know what their lungs do, we'll go back to the air analogy, you don't know what your lungs are for. You think your lungs are just there so you could hold air. But what you don't understand is you got brachial tubes and you got alveoli and you got all these other things in there that do gas exchange, carbon dioxide oxygenation of the bloodstream and how it goes through the heart. People have no idea of any of that. They don't know it's my lungs, I breathe. All of a sudden, something's happening in your life, good or bad. It's through a series of things that you've been doing because you're creating all of this as you're moving forward. You're the one in charge of this, whether you believe it or not. If you believe that you see obstacles, you create obstacles out of nothing, and they seem to pop up and get in front of you everywhere. Then the obstacle becomes your goal, how to get over this obstacle rather than remembering that you had an original goal in mind. In a spiritual sense, I would always say, God, put me where I'm supposed to be. And then when I know, like that story, I couldn't take another step. He literally, like that was like a physical, cannot move. Not that I felt anybody, but I couldn't take another step. Goes back to the brain. The brain doesn't send the signal, the legs don't move. Well, where is your spirituality? It's in your mind. Your mind is it, right? That's the essence of who we are, our soul, our mind. Your brain is an organ. Your mind is your essence. You with me? Mm-hmm. Following that, that's where you get your connection. So when you feel that pull, the essence will tell your brain, go left, just like your brain organ would tell your arm, scratch my head. It's the same feeling. You just don't know that you're being directed because you don't understand the matrix of what's happening because you've never really took the time to study the esoteric aspects of it. And people say, oh, I'm a martial artist, body, mind, and spirit. Really? Well, tell me about what do you do with your spiritual aspect? And you know what I mean? Or you ask them, yeah, I'm a mixed martial artist. And I say, what arts did you mix? And they say, excuse me? You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. So now
I follow
I'm doing
you.
this a long time. And God's been doing this a long time with me since I'm a kid. So just through the years, I've trusted more. I just trust. I trust him. I trust he's going to put me where I need to be. Okay. And on this particular thing, you know, I went back to New York to become an actor again, all on my own at 17. You know, they got people living at home now, 38 years old, 40 years old. They're living with their parents. You know what I mean? You know, 17 years old, back in the street, went back to that school. And the reason, and because I came from the street and I didn't come from money, they wouldn't let me in the academy, which is a story that you're talking about. They wouldn't even give me an interview. And I remember I was working at a place at a pasta restaurant serving pasta for meatballs and pasta for $1 an hour in a white coat. I hated it. It was the worst thing in the world. I hated it. And I used to go by St. Patrick's Cathedral. It was on 50th, 51st there, Manhattan. I used to go by St. Patrick's Cathedral and light a candle and pray and say, God, you know, whatever you're supposed to do, can you please do it? Because I'm getting really tired of these meatballs. I'm getting really tired. I did. I kid you not. It's all true. And then, like you're saying, I'm walking that one day with the guy on the way back. I lived in Astoria at the time. I'll never forget because we used to have to walk up 59 Lex, come under, take the double R, and go over to Queensboro Bridge and get home. And that night, it was like a Monday or Tuesday. There was nothing special about it. And there was nothing except for that neon on light on these green awnings. Didn't even have a sign to the place. I can still see it in my head, Tony, like as clear as I'm looking at you right now. And then, you know, I said, I got to go in this bar. And the guy said, what do you mean you got to go in this bar? I said, you don't drink. I said, I know, but I can't take another step. I physically can't. He kept walking. We were walking together. He kept walking, and I stopped right for the bar. I look left, and I go, what? You know, and he's talking to me right then, saying, go inside. Just go inside, and you'll get it. And I'm like, why? In my head, I'm going, why? Why? And he says, trust. Just go inside. That's all I kept feeling. Go inside. Nothing else. Nothing more than that. And he says, why are you going to go in there? That's a bar. You don't even drink. We just worked a 13-hour shift. I just want to go home. Come on. I said, listen, God works with me in different ways. My mechanism, your mechanism. We all have different ways of working. I know how mine works. I'm not going to try to explain to you how mine works or why it works. None of that matters to anybody else. It only matters to the individual that he's working with. That individual understands the concept. Like you have a way of working in a finance that makes you who you are, and the ways that you use, the methodologies you use are what make you as good as you are. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Without those methodologies, without that knowledge, you'd be lost. You wouldn't know how to fix the problems of finance. Okay. But your instinct tells you, I think this guy's doing too much over here. Maybe he needs to move the company. Your instinct, right? Okay. So now instinct tells you what to do. You go in here. I go in there, and there's Conrad Bain, the father of different strokes. And as soon as I saw him, he was the only face. It was very strange. It was in the place was totally dark, and they had these big booths that they used to have in like the steakhouses, the big black booths from the 50s, wonderful places in Manhattan. And there he was sitting having dinner with his wife, and he was the biggest guy on television at the time. It was like 1986, 87, something like that. And the guy was Different Strokes was the #1 show on TV. And they wouldn't see me at the academy, and I had him laughing at the table, just sitting here having a conversation with him. And he goes, you're a funny guy. Why don't you do something with this talent? I said, I tried to go to this place, American Academy. I've been dreaming about it my whole life. All I ever wanted to do was come back to New York, become an actor, and study at this great academy. And he goes, well, you got to go back. I said, go back. They wouldn't even give me an interview. They told me to get out of here. Next, they're going to pull a gun on me. Are you kidding me? They don't want me around. And he said, I'm going to give you your first lesson as an actor. If you're willing to take no for an answer, you'll never get anywhere in this business. Never take no for an answer. Don't accept the no. I said, okay, thank you. And that's when I went home and saw Tony that day. And my uncle Tony, he's one of those guys that give you information. And he said, I told him I met this great star. I met Conrad Bain, holy mackerel, last night. It was cool. He goes, oh, no kidding. I said, but you know what? God did this whole thing with me, but where's the payoff? I mean, I know you made me meet the guy, and it was nice to meet the guy, but I mean, so what? That's not going to put any more food on my table. It doesn't help me. And then the next thing you know, he said, well, what did he tell you to do? He told me to go back to the academy and try again. He goes, so you're going to go back, right? I go, what are you, crazy? I'm not going back. Those people hate me. He goes, so you're telling me that this is how that wise guy information comes back, Tony, when they do stuff like this, right? They go, oh, so you're telling me that you know better than a man who's on top of the world. You know better than him. Is that what you're telling me? I said, no, Tony, I didn't say that. I didn't say I know better. But I mean, I was there. He goes, so you're going to go back? I said, of course I'm going back. Right? So I flipped like that, Tony, right? And I kid you not. I went back. I walked in. The girl asked me my name, and I was like, Vince Cecere. I was so embarrassed to say my own name. And then when I said it, she goes, hold on right there. She calls somebody. And I'm thinking, look, if I tell you not to come back in a place and you come back and I make a call, you can guarantee a couple of guys named Tony and Vito are about to come downstairs with a bat and take you out. And that's all that's going on in my head, right? All of a sudden, the dean comes running down. Mr. Cecere, how are you? And I'm like, oh, did my father walk in? What do you mean, Mr. Cecere? He goes, we understand we're to give you an audition. I said, whoa. What do you mean we understand? I came here a month ago, and you wouldn't even take my application because I don't come from money. They're not going to afford it. And the second thing was that I didn't have good credentials because the second week of 10th grade, I broke a kid's face on a piano, and they threw me out. They said, we got a call from Mr. Conrad Bain. And he said, if you came back, you were deserving of a shot. Now, being Italian, I want to do it on my own. I don't want nobody to help me. we got that testadori, right? I said, so any actor, any guy that's on TV can make a phone call? I thought you had a prestigious academy. That's what I said to the guy. I thought you couldn't get in here unless you were certain caliber. But I guess if anybody makes a phone call, you get in, right? That's the way this works. And I'm a little disenchanted. And he says, well, first off, we're not going to let you in the academy. We're going to give you an audition. Second off, Mr. Conrad Bain is not anybody. He's the chairman of the board of alumni of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Now, how many people are in the city of New York, Tony? You know.
Well, you got about 8 million, something like that.
On a Tuesday night, you can do the coincidences all you want. On a Tuesday night in Manhattan on 59th Street around, I don't know, whatever avenue there, 59 and Lex up that way, wherever I was. You're going to tell me at like between 8 and 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night in Manhattan, you walk into the one place where the one guy in the world could pick up the phone and get you a shot in the academy because you were walking by. And how did you know he was in there? Now you tell me that's coincidence. So let somebody who believes in coincidence explain that one.
That's why I wanted you to highlight this story, Vince, because that is incredible. The odds of that happening, yeah. I mean, you could have hit the lottery 10 times. And actually, I liked your follow-up comment after you told that story. I think you said something like it would take you 10 lifetimes or something to be able to something with this coincidence. I forgot your exact words, but it was pretty funny.
I've hit in tournament play and hold'em and poker in tournaments. I've hit 4 diamond royal flushes in my hand, and I've won in 1 year, 12-month period, I've hit 4 of them. My father played cards for 55 years, never held one. The odds of hitting 1 in tournament play, 1 is 177,000 to 1. I hit 4.
Wow.
Eddie Murphy said a long time ago, I remember listening to an interview, he said, if you don't feel lucky, you're in the wrong business. Luck has a lot to do with it, being in the right place at the right time. So I believe luck more than coincidence. I believe in luck, most definitely. There are very lucky people walking around and very unlucky people. Coincidences, I'm not a big believer in coincidences. I am a believer in divine intervention. A big believer in that.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. This ties into business. I promise we'll get to that.
I'm enjoying this. There's people that have never heard any of this stuff before that are walking around and they're being talked to and they're getting guidance, but they don't understand it. And they don't
it's happened to me plenty of times, Vince, and that's why I'm fascinated with the subject. We had a guy on here, a good friend of mine. His name's Dr. Bernie Siegel. He's one of the top spiritual guys ever in the history. He was an actual surgeon who was teaching people about believing and fixing their own problems without having to go to the doctors. And one of his famous lines was, "No coincidences." Like that's what he always says to me. And the first time he said it to me, I remember he wrote me a text message, an email back, and he said something in the email that was almost like impossible for him to know. And I was thinking about something. It was an internal thing. And I'm like, there's no way he knows that. It's like almost like he was messing with my mind because we just had this subject, this topic about no coincidence. And here he brings this information to an email, like there's something that I was thinking about. And there's no way possible he knew about that or even cared to know. And I don't even know why he sent it. I never even questioned him on it. It's just odd.
But it wasn't for him, it was for you.
Yeah.
Message was for you.
From something. Yeah, it happens all the time, this stuff. When I heard you tell that story, I'm like, and I don't really talk much about it, that's the stuff that's been happening to me my whole life. Almost like this voice. And it's just nuts sometimes. It's just hard to I can't explain it. Like you said, it's
something's happening. When you know something's happening, Tony, again and again to you, it's not, it's happening. You feel it happening. Then the logical thing is to try to find out what it is by doing as much homework as you can, connecting with people who have had similar experiences, like near-death experiences.
Thanks, Vince. So, why do you love martial arts? Maybe a minute or two.
Love martial arts. I have seen martial arts. I have seen people who were introverted and wouldn't look you in the eye, were intimidated to talk to people on the phone, introverted people. I've seen them come out and be normal human beings. And then where they wouldn't back down from somebody in their face, where before they wouldn't even look them in the eye. They were that scared because of the confidence level just in their ability. I had a girl, Patty, who, when I was teaching, when I first got started in Los Angeles, I taught a woman's empowerment class. I thought it'd be a good way to introduce myself. And as I was doing it, after the fourth class, I had a young lady come in and cry. And I said, "What happened?" She goes, "I owe you so much." I said, "No, your dues are paid. What are you talking about?" And she says, "No, you don't understand." She told me the story, and then she wrote a letter about it to Oprah. And she said, "I've had this constant dream again and again and again for the past 20 years of somebody coming in and choking me out and killing me in my bedroom. So I've been going to psychologists, neuropsychologists, all these doctors, and all they do is give me all this medicine that knocks me out, but then I'm groggy, I can't do anything. So they're doping me up to put me to sleep." And I said, "Well, tell me the dream." She goes, "Well, it's always the same dream. I'm sleeping, a guy comes in and he's choking me in my bed, and then I pass out and I imagine that I die." I said, "So what happened?" She goes, "You taught us how not to be choked and how to get a guy off us if they were choking us against a wall. And when I was in bed having the same dream, now I had that knowledge. And when they went to choke me, I used what you taught me. I got them up off of me. And in the dream, I got up and I looked and I said, 'You're never going to hurt me again, ever.' And it broke her cycle. And guess what? In that moment, she finally saw who was hurting her because she blocked it. And it was her father molesting her.
Wow.
So she wrote a letter about this to Oprah saying, "This guy's a martial arts guy and cured my psychological issue that I went to 20 doctors all these years and spent tens of thousands of dollars on these guys, and nobody ever fixed it." We taught her how to protect herself physically, which innately protects you inside. The confidence that you can do it now follows your subconscious. So anywhere you're in a fight now, you're not the same victim. You're now trained. And you know how many women I've helped that had abusive spouses to get over that to where they could have a normal relationship with people again? So that's what I think. That's two of the reasons I absolutely love the martial arts. The other is the martial arts is, Benny Akita has said this so eloquently to me. On the mat, all the things that you exaggerate about, hide in your basement, in your closet, under your bed, in your pillow, all the things that we hide come out on the mat. You can't hide on the mat. You have to be that guy on the mat. We get guys that come in the door. "I got a black belt in this, I got a black belt in that, I got a black belt in this." They come in, they start banging the guys around a little bit. Then you got to humble them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the martial arts, it humbles people. I've taken many kids out of the hood that nobody would help or teach with no money, no nothing. Guys from White Fence, 18th Street, all the guys over here, a lot of guys. And I bring them in groups and we teach these guys how to have respect for themselves through martial arts instead of hurting people.
Thank you, Vince. That's a brilliant response. So next question, maybe you can just, on a side note with this, what are the most efficient moves to take someone out? Maybe just a quick demonstration. I'm sure you're probably going to go to the wrist, but I don't want to persuade your response. So the most efficient moves to take someone out, maybe a minute or two or less. And you can bring that you got that
I'm sorry
product.
and walk away.
Yeah, that's good.
Whatever you did or whatever perceived was done, I'm sorry for whatever I've done that's offended you, and walk away.
That's brilliant.
Listen, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Vince, what do you want to, this might be an opportunity to show off that that product that you made as well.
Patriot keychain.
Yeah.
Made in the USA. I paid $2 extra just because I will not have it made anywhere except in the USA. AOSJ on the bottom. Grips so that a female, it won't be taken out of her hand. So the strong guy try to get her. This is made to knock a guy out under the chin. This is made to disengage his jaw. He's going to call his buddies. One, give him one shot, disengage his jaw. Now he can't call anybody. If you're in a multiple assault situation and you have to be a tactical guy, you can use this for a ranger chokehold from behind, tracheal notch. This goes in over body armor right here. So if a guy's even vested up, we go in under the armpit with the point, or we go in over the clavicle, subclavicle, tracheal notches with this, and it's like a can opener, and you get right in. It is probably one of the most efficient self-defense weapons that you could carry. Every female in my life carries one. Aunts, cousins, everyone carries one, and comes with a Vimeo link to watch it. You practice 15 minutes twice a week. You know, within like 2-3 weeks, you'll be proficient in it. Shows you pressure points, like I told you about the massage therapy, where to hit, what to hit. Let's talk about self-defense for a minute, because you said about the techniques and what it's. Let me say this to you. It's very easy to turn a guy off. It's very hard to try to do it and not hurt him. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
I can hit you in a spot in the neck that'll totally incapacitate you for 15 minutes. You're done. You're not going to do nothing for 15 minutes. So why do I have to hurt you any more than that if I stopped your action? If a guy's got a weapon in his hand and he's reaching up and I disengage his arm or take out his arm that was holding the weapon, no longer allowing him to have to hold that weapon anymore, why must I continue violent behavior on him? It's not necessary. I've neutralized the problem. That's how a tactician thinks. And I'm thinking about problem solving as a technician. I'm a problem solver. Here's a guy, he's this big, he's this stuff, he's got this, something like this. If you know how to hold it, use it, and hit these points, can incapacitate any size guy because it's reflex arc based, peripheral and central nervous system based. And that is all about signaling, energy, signaling, disconnection of function. My friend got stabbed in the back with a piece of rebar. Decompressed his homeostasis of his right lung, decompressed. He fell right down. The guy stepped up to shoot him in the back of the head 3 times. The other friend jumped on top of him and took 3 rounds right in the back. A big fat guy. He was about 400 pounds. At 25, the rounds only stuck in a superficial wound. That kid went to the hospital. They took out the 3 little 25 rounds. It didn't even stick it. They gave him like a Band-Aid, nothing. My friend, who the rebar went into, Benny, it decompressed his lung, and it took him 6 weeks in the hospital until he can get his lungs right. So when the guys are talking about self-defense and all this stuff, let me tell you what, punch a guy in his lower back, knock his air out, and then he's done. It's all over. Hit a guy with anything sharp and pierce into the intercostal muscle of the ribs, the guy goes down. It's like he's done. There's no more fight in him, because the homeostasis of the body is like oil pressure in your car. Oil pressure drops, the car doesn't run, it burns up, it's done. So if you're going to teach tactics, you got to know, turn it off at the highest level, which is the brain. Any action he's going to do has to go through his brain. If a guy's holding a weapon, you break his hand. Now he can't hold it, he can't punch, he can't choke, he can't restrain you no more. And I didn't have to kill the guy, I just broke his hand. Let him go have it. Every time his hand hurts now for the rest of his life, he'll remember it's because he picked up a weapon and tried to kill somebody or hurt somebody.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Vince. Vince, I got a follow-up question in a little bit, so let's just hold that thought. Oh yeah, that's actually the next question. The Survival of the Richest book. I just want to read you this real quick, okay? Because you just hinted on this. But I actually just saved this for you. So my last book was called The Survival of the Richest. It's the one up on the wall here, and page 75. And I'm sure you're going to appreciate this. It says the best, most experienced teachers of any of the forms of martial science, know that the best fights are the ones that are avoided. Fighting should always be an option of last resort, as violence begets only more violence. The conflict may then continue into perpetuity. Many later escalations can be avoided and many lives can be saved if a peaceful solution can be found. Unfortunately, though, peace is not always an option, especially when a violent struggle is hand-delivered to you. This is a section called self-defense that I worked into my survival part one of the argument, connecting survival, finance, economics, biology, and a lot of other crazy stuff. So what's your thoughts on that? Is going back to the original question for this would be, are the best fights the ones that are avoided? And I think you already hinted at this.
I think you can only avoid so much of a fight, no matter how much you try. If you got a guy that's hell bent on just hurting you and he's going to try to hurt you, you're going to have to defend yourself physically. But if it's an altercation that's impromptu and just comes up, there's multiple ways to handle it like that without violence. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest problem is communication, right? Let's say that you're about to get in a guy's face and fight with him, right? You think he's Joe Blow he works at McDonald's as a manager, right? And now this is all you know about him, and now you want to fight him. But all of a sudden, you also find out the guy's a 3-time world champion in combat jiu-jitsu and can snap your neck in 2 seconds. All of a sudden, your view about him changes really quickly, doesn't it? That ain't a guy flipping burgers. That's a guy that's going to snap your neck. Your perception of that individual is a direct reflection of what you're going to get back. Understand? If I see an enemy, I have an enemy. If I see a friend, I can make a friend. That perception can help change the whole world.
That's brilliant.
What we don't understand, we tend to be aggressive towards. Because why? Because generally it scares us inside. So we put up this wall, little aggressive wall. Guys who are bullies generally are really scared inside. That's why they act out. They try to do it to them before it's done to them, before somebody actually calls them on their crap. So if you truly, martial arts is about peace. It is not about violence and fighting. And anybody that got into the martial arts with that notion, you might have had that in the beginning, or you might have had a teacher putting something in your head that's a new teacher, novice teacher, talking about how, oh, you're going to be the greatest this and the greatest that. You have to stop with that because, number one, there is no greatest. There is no such thing as the best, right? There's the best that you can be with your skills, not the best. You, him, you put them all together. Oh, he's the best. Why is he the best? On any given day, any man can lose a fight. Believe me, for any number of reasons. Stomach ache, doesn't feel good, hamstrings pulled, has a shoulder injury. You understand? All these things matter in a fight. So if you're going to only judge on, violence and anger, and I can do this and I can do that, eventually you're going to get put down. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. It's going to happen. But if you make friends and friends respect you and you can teach them martial arts, and then they see, man, this guy could snap me in 1,000 pieces, but he's never ever hurt me. Now you're actually showing what the martial arts was meant to be, which is about love and courtesy and respect and protecting people, you know?
And Vince, I like to just pause there because I agree with you from my experiences in many years in the gym, the martial art community. I noticed one thing when someone comes off the street, and it's here in Philly, we got them all the time. People will come off, just tough guys from the street. They're street guys, and they want to come in. They're bringing their muscles. They're flexing their muscles. First few days, they think this whole thing is about punching people the hardest. Usually, I've noticed time after time that same type of person doesn't last no more than 3 months in that gym, because at some point,
or they humble themselves.
Yes, or they humble themselves and continue. They're going to have to face that bridge at some point, because at some point they're going to find some tough guy who looks like the punk in the whole place, the small, usually the guy that looks the weakest. And that small, weakest guy is going to make them look so embarrassed. And I love it when it happens to the big guy, It makes them look so embarrassed that we'll see how tough they are if they actually come back. And most of the time they don't. It's amazing. And it's humbling. And the people that get to the highest levels have to go through that cycle. You know, they say the black belt is just a white belt with that didn't quit. That those people who didn't quit, they had to get, what they're also saying is they had to get beat up enough times to keep coming back, that their ego is in check now. So
I was one of those guys. I came in with the knife when the guy got stabbed. I walked in the dojo and I said, I want to know how to take away a knife. And he showed me on a kid. He did it to a kid. And I said, that's bullshit. Nobody can do that for real. He gave you that. And I said, give me the thing. And I took it and I went at him. And like, he put me down. Leo, he put me down. Listen, before I ever started martial arts, the guy took that knife away, put me down, and had me under restraint. And he didn't hurt me, but I was done. And that was the truth, man. When you get hit with truth in the face like that, and you realize, I just did the Mr. Florida. I was negative doing 525 negatives, 405 for 18 reps. I was so strong, you got to be kidding me. And this guy just went, just took me right down. And like I said on the television interview, I did it on the Channel 2 News, I told him, if I'd have run into this guy in the street with my ego, like these guys do, run around with that big head, I'm a big, strong guy, I'm going to do this, then I'd have been a statistic in 2 seconds. He'd have chopped me down in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But God let me learn it in a humbling atmosphere. And had it not been from that guy, I still wouldn't believe in martial arts, because it's very few people have impressed me in the martial arts as a teacher. I've been around some of the best in the world, Benny Urquidez, Bill Ryasaki, some of these guys that are Moses Powell, Master V, Cecil Peoples. These guys are the best in the world, okay? And I've learned something from every one of them. You know that? Mm. Every single master has taught me something that another master didn't. I love it. That's why I like our community, because you're constantly getting these knowledge that it takes years to develop that, to get that answer.
Yeah, and speaking of Vince, sorry to pause. That's actually that's where we're going with this. How did you become a part of this legendary group of martial artists? So folks, Vince is a part of this amazing community that he was just talking about. I mean, he's not joking. He really does train with the best of the best, people who have created the best. I mean, they're the masters. So they have students that are going around the world with knowledge of all sorts of martial arts, you know, from Kung Fu to, you know, Japanese Jiu-jitsu. And we got Muay Thai guys, and, you know, so like Don the Dragon. Like, how did you get to be part of this group, Vince?
Great thing, because in Dragon Fest 2001 was at the Glendale Auditorium. My Uncle Mike, we had gotten this ticket to go see this thing called Dragon Fest. And it was a guest ticket given to a guy through a woman named Cynthia Rothrock. I know you know Cynthia, right?
Yep. Got pictures with you and her.
Right. So when we walked in there, it was right after 9/11. And I had Uncle Mike was filming me going in. We were documenting my trip from the East Coast to the West Coast into the martial arts community. And I went in there and met all the masters that were alive at that time. Gene LaBelle, Benny Urquidez, all these people I met. At the very end, I turned to the camera and I said, we were here on as a guest. Next time I come back next year, I'm going to be on that stage somehow. And I said it right in the camera. The next year was 2002. I've got the footage. Benny Urquidez had brought me into his place. And I was with him for a couple of years at a Jets gym. We go to Glendale Auditorium. We're about to do a demo. And they stopped to give Eric Lee a Lifetime Achievement Award given to him by who? Martial Arts Museum, Michael Matsuda.
Wow.
So we're standing on stage. Nobody even knows who I am or who we are. And we're all in camouflage. We got no mats. And they ask us to wait a minute while we do this. We're standing there with Benny. Then Benny introduced me to the world. And then we did a demo and just stole the show, man, after the Chinese circus. And we did it with no mats. These guys were doing hard ukemis on wooden floors. People were like, oh, man, this is old school jujitsu here. And it took off. And then right after I came off that stage, Benny was waiting in the wings and he said, dry your face. And I said, man, look at all the masters. I seen them all lined up. He goes, they all want to shake your hand. They saw what you did, and they want to pay you respect. Now go out there and get your respect.
Wow.
And that's how I got into the community. From that day on, they started embracing me. And I taught the black belt test at House of Champions several times. They call me in to teach the teachers. And literally, Benny Akitas, Don Wilson, who's better than kickboxing, Lang.
Benny Akitas, that's Benny the Jet, right?
Benny the Jet.
Yeah.
That's who I was with for 2 years. He's the one that introduced me. And this year, Dragon Fest marks 22 years to the day. And we're back at the Glendale Auditorium for the first time in 10 years.
Wow.
So when I walk in, I'm teaching a seminar where I walked in and was nobody 22 years ago, and now I'm headlining, and my security company runs the security for the whole event. Talk about full circle.
I love it. That's great. Wow. Well, yeah, I commend you on that, Vince. That's an incredible story. And, not just the Dragon Fest, you also the Atlantic City convention, martial art festival, any
Dr.
other
Bob
festivals?
and Alan Goldberg. Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Bob Goldman.
Any other ones you go with them, or they're the two main ones, right?
Well, you remember that where we go to, those are the two biggest ones in the world, but the other things that we do are all private training seminars together. Like I went to Vegas with Samuel Kwok, Sifu Samuel Kwok, Ip Man's legacy guy. So when he was in Vegas, and I remember he was there one day, and he said to me, he was a guest, and we're sitting at the seminar, and he says to me, Vince, this guy's ready. I don't like this guy. He says, it's funny because he's Chinese, but when he speaks, he has a UK accent, English accent. It boggles my mind all the time. You'll look at his face and you expect him to be going, okay, and then all of a sudden what comes out of his mouth is bloody hell. And you're like, what did he say? So I remember Master Kwok, we were just in Vegas like a year ago, right before Bob Wall died. It was 6 months ago. We were in Vegas. We were at the A4 event, the Dr. Bob's anti-aging event, the biggest one in the world. So it was me. It was we lost Harry Mock. We lost Harry Mock, who's the huge Animal Crackers, the movie. That's his, over 1 billion views. We lost him. We lost Bob Wall. We lost so many people from that stage that I was standing on 6 months ago.
Wow.
Big Del West.
That's news to me, Vince. So a lot of those people that were at the festival, I mean, they're not there anymore. Wow, because of COVID, huh?
Yeah. Well, we don't want to talk about why they died, how they died, but what I will say is a high percentage of them took the Kool-Aid and died. So, but what I want to say is that the community at the top are wonderful people who live the life every single day. And when Samuel Clark says to me, come up here, the guy's being arrogant, the guy's being disrespectful. I said, what's the matter? He said, he came from another school, he's coming over, he's banging people around, and now he's trying to challenge me. And he says, I'm going to knock him out. Now, this is an old school master from telling me, he goes, he asked me, he goes, should I knock this guy out? And my answer is always yes. The guy's being disrespectful, because you got to humble the guy in the dojo, especially if you're going to be in a seminar, multiple schools coming in, and you're going to all of a sudden step up and start to challenge a master a little bit. You're going to get your ass whooped. You know that. So he said to me, I said, Sifu, you can't do that. You're a guest in this country. We don't want any problems with your passport or anything. He goes, yeah, you're right. I go, let me do it. So those are those pictures. No, I did. He told me, he said, go do it. And then me and the guy worked out, and I dropped that guy a couple of times in Vegas. You can see it on the clips on the video, because once he was on the ground, he tried to fight from the ground and kick me. And I said, really? You want to see what we do from the ground too? And then I snatched his ankle, broke his leg. And I said, that's what we do from the ground. So at the end of the day, we protect those guys because they're treasures, and there's only a very few left alive anymore. We just lost Ip Chin, which is Ip Man's last son passed away.
Okay.
Like 2 months ago. Yeah. He was Samuel Kwok's teacher, and he was 92 years old. The guy's still teaching Wing Chun.
Wow. Oh man, that's crazy. I didn't know about that. I just haven't been paying attention. Been so busy with this podcast and all these other things going on. That's
When you
amazing.
come out, anytime you come out, we do tons of things at the Martial Arts History Museum, and that's the real pool out here. Everybody's connected to the museum. Cindy, Don, me, everybody.
How about Chuck Norris and all those greats? Are they involved with them at all?
Movie with Chuck called Logan's War back in the day. And but I never actually, Chuck doesn't show up around these things. He's too big for this. Plus, he can't hardly hear anymore. You know, he's old, and they say he's almost deaf, is what I was told.
Oh, okay.
So he kind of limits his exposure.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you, Vince. All right, Vince. So I don't know if it's possible. Can you do a quick history of Japanese Jiu-jitsu in like 30 seconds? Just like where it came from, and tie it into Brazilian.
There are over 725 registered forms of Japanese Jiu-jitsu in Japan alone, not to mention how many hybrids and changing. There are 3 original trees of Jiu-jitsu that come from Japan. There's a Temiru school, the Miyamaru. The tree has 3 branches: the Atemi schools, the Miyamaru schools, and I'm sorry, I don't know the 3rd tree. But those are 2 of the trees. In America, Master V, Florendo Visitation, the old man that was Moses Powell's teacher, was one of the first Japanese jiu-jitsu men in America in 1935. Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, the art of the samurai, Teddy Roosevelt was the first black belt ever. Teddy Roosevelt was a black belt, and he brought a samurai before World War II. Teddy Roosevelt, when he went to Japan, and he met with the Emperor of Japan, he brought back a samurai with him to live at the White House and train him. He became the first black belt in jiu-jitsu, like in America. It was Teddy Roosevelt, under a true samurai. Okay. And he was the one that started the hand-to-hand stuff in our military. It started with Teddy Roosevelt, setting up all the programs of self-defense. So going from there, Japanese jiu-jitsu has been is where the rubber meets the road. They call the mother art. Aikido, what we call Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Kempo, and judo all come from jiu-jitsu. It takes a lifetime to get to understand all the facets of jiu-jitsu. When I see these guys with 27 ranks and 27 systems, I don't know how they do it. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for 30 years doing it, and nobody knows everything. And after 30 years, I'm still learning things as I fight, things that you can make better. I don't believe in all the katas and the forms. I believe in you need self-defense is how you judge a combat system, how well it works for real when they're under duress and being hurt in multiple assault, not a singular person. You definitely don't belong laying on your back and stuff like that in law enforcement. You can't do that. So passing that, jiu-jitsu now is in America. If you go back to the 70s, nobody ever knew the word jiu-jitsu. Go back to the 80s, you barely knew the word jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu came out in the 90s with the Gracies is when it became a name. And it was right after Seagal had his run in the 80s with Aikido, but nobody knew that Aikido comes from jiu-jitsu. It's the Aiki way. So if guys were studying Aiki jiu-jitsu, it's kind of mixing big and small circles together. Wally J, Master V, small circle jiu-jitsu, American style, they're the ones who basically prevailed and pushed that system that way. Moses Powell, same thing, combat jiu-jitsu. Now, come up to today. My master dies, Moses Powell. I can't go up any higher. I got to have my own flag now. So that's why I created AOSJ. So now that's why you see American old school jiu-jitsu. What does it mean? It means we follow the principles of Japanese jiu-jitsu. We've been trained classically in Japanese jiu-jitsu, but nobody jumps out of a car with a spear anymore. You're not going to get attacked in Philly when a guy with a big sword. It's not going to happen. What will happen is you could see a taser, you could see a knife, you could see a steak knife, you could see a screwdriver, you can see tasers, you can see razors. These are weapons that you better know how to deal with, because a lot of that you're going to see in today's world. But I mean, for me to train a guy in a naginata to knock a guy off a horse, what are you doing? My point.
So if you learn Japanese jiu-jitsu, though, you're essentially learning Aikido, Kempo, all that other stuff at the same time.
Kempo is called the hands of jiu-jitsu, like Jeff Speakman and Kempo. It's called the hands of jiu-jitsu, Kempo. Judo are all the throws of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Judo in itself is not a self-defense form at all. Because if the guy doesn't have a gi on, what do you do? Everything is about grabbing the gi.
Yeah, exactly. if he's wrestling you on the beach and his shirt's off, yeah,
And I fought on the beach many times in Florida, pal. Okay, and you're in a pair of shorts, and guess what? You can't hold a guy for shit because he's sweating and oil, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to grapple.
All your moves
you
are gone.
strike.
Yeah.
Yes.
But would you say though, being a master Japanese Jiu-jitsu, that you basically are a master of those other four at the same time because you had to learn?
No, you're not. No. I do not. I would not say I have rank in Kempo because you can study further. There's things that we don't go into that they do more. What I mean is the component of Kempo came from Jiu-jitsu, and then somebody said, I can explain it to you this way. To study all of the mother art of Jiu-jitsu, it would take you, let's say, a lifetime, where other guys want what they call instant gratification. So I only want to study this much of it. Okay, then I'm studying Kempo, the hands. Oh, I want to study Aikido. Oh, you want to study the spiritual way, the spirit blending way. Oh, I want to study Judo. Oh, you want to learn the throws without all the combative stuff. When you learn Japanese Jiu-jitsu, you learn how to basically destroy the human body in every form that it's capable of. In other words, wherever you're fighting, wherever your enemy is, even if you're on a plane in a bathroom going, 300 miles an hour and you're 20,000 feet up and you're in a bathroom and a guy kicks it in and you got to fight right then from sitting on a toilet, guess what? You can. There are no limitations. That's why it's so comprehensive, but that's also why it's so very rare to see true Japanese Jiu-jitsu guys or Japanese Jiu-jitsu black belts, true ones. Michael Di Pasquale's guys, very good bunch of Jiu-jitsu guys.
Thank you, Vince. Brilliant response. And just next question, just real quickly, how do you make money in martial arts? Like the different ways that are out there. Like, just to preface that question, just go back to karate, right? In Philly, I think they're one of the oldest karate places here. They have a sign, 1960 something. Like karate came first to America and everybody had a dojo or 10 dojos. Then we got the MMA gyms and stuff. But I mean, how profitable are there? How many do you need to have to really start making money? And is there other ways to make money as a martial artist? Obviously, you found many. So just the typical, let's say the average person though.
Let's say a guy studies, he gets his first degree black belt and he goes and gets his hands on some money enough to open up a dojo. He opens it up and he runs it. I think your existence in business depends on the extensive training of the master, because if you're only working out with the high ranks and not the master, you're not getting the essence of why the master is the master. You're only getting the watered down of what this guy has learned in his point in time, a first degree black belt. First degree black belt really is you're just getting started in the martial arts. As we say, when you hit your first black belt, it's just a new beginning for you. Okay, until you got 20 years into until you got at least 15 years into martial arts and you got, you're up around the 5th degree black belt area, you don't know shit yet.
Yeah.
Okay, you're learning. You're doing well in your thing, but you're learning. But as far as making money, I'm sorry, to go back to the question, I could open a dojo, I could set up a kids class, and then those kids come and those parents use that as an afternoon thing, and they get to drop their kids off and be away from their kids for several hours where they get a break. And they do that with these dojos. That's why so many dojos teach kids classes. Why? Because the parent will always come up with the money for the child where they won't spend it on themselves in the martial arts. That's one truth of martial arts. The other truth is guys sell ranks left and right to make their money, generating by selling ranks. Well, I've never sold a rank in my life. I've been teaching for 30 years. I only got 7 black belts. So that ought to tell you how long it takes. We don't give away anything like that. It's too valuable. It's too honorable. Why would you give something so valuable away for a few dollars? I remember they were saying you can get a black belt in 15 months. You come in, you pay $1,500 in a black belt, you'll have your black belt in 15 months, guaranteed. Okay. If I just heard that, would you want to go to that school?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And if somebody's making a choice, usually when they make choice in the dojo, they make choice by location, right? And the convenience to their life. And then obviously price, because nobody wants to pay anything for anything. Let's face it, we always want to get the best deal. when you're dealing about martial arts and you're thinking about giving your child over to someone, you know that that child's being influenced by this person. And if you don't know that person really well, and you haven't sat and audited the class, watched how they taught, and you might not be qualified because maybe you never took the martial arts, but you are certainly qualified to see the way that that man interacts with children. And if that guy is going to spend that much time with your son, do you really want to go to a guy that's like, it's like when you go up in the space shuttle, right? And you know that everything here is made by the lowest bidder. You see my point? You're always thinking, geez, that 30-cent screw could kill all of us, right? Yeah. So the same thing here. You know, you can open up and you can offer classes real cheap, and they'll give you a uniform in 2 free weeks and bring the kids and all that. And that's a platform for making money, running kids classes. Okay. Then the second thing is you're selling them patches, you're selling them belts, you're selling them gis, you're selling them sodas, you're selling, this is what they do. And they turn it into this inside, constantly generating different finances. Then you get your privates that come up, they want to study privately with you. Then you fill your guys up with that. Like most of us that are at the top, we got a bunch of private students that usually take care of everything that you need, and everything else is ancillary. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's what I know. Mostly the masters I know all have their core that make sure they're taken care of.
Yeah.
Personal.
I'm sure, like, you know, at your level, it's easy to find one billionaire that, you know, that wants to be a private client. And basically you only need that one person, but you'll probably find a handful of them because they just want to learn it and they want to learn from the best. They don't care about the money. So
that's the thing. That's the thing. And they come to your house. My dojos, I have a completely built out outside 3.5 car garage that's turned into a dojo. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
So they have total privacy when they come here. Military guys want to come here and work out something, nobody sees them. Agents want to come here and work out, nobody sees them. Celebrities, they come by here. When Priscilla Presley came by with Chuck the other day, they, you know.
Wait, who came by? Priscilla Presley?
She's a friend.
I just want to make sure the audience heard that.
Oh yeah. You want to laugh? She walked up in my driveway with my neighbor, and we were working out. I was working out with a guy, and actually the kid happens to be a very wealthy kid from an oil family, except he's a little introverted. And on the music playing, Viva Las Vegas happened to just be playing, and up the driveway, Priscilla came walking with Chuck Zito, my friend, and they walk up the driveway, and she looks at me and goes, "Perfect, Vinny, like Viva Las Vegas is playing, come on." And I go, "Listen, I swear, I didn't know you were coming to the setup." And I said to my friend, because his mom was the biggest Elvis fan in the world, Priscilla fan in the world. His mom thought, you know, live and die with. I said, "Come on, let me introduce you to Priscilla." And the guy is a big guy, like 6'5". He froze. He couldn't move. He was petrified, paralyzed. Wow. He couldn't. I said, come and say hello. He goes, I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, That's Priscilla Presley. I said, "I know, come say hello. You're always talking about money." No. That's God's truth. God's truth.
I believe it.
So in my house, you never know who's going to show up. I mean, literally, you just never know. You never know who's going to be here when you walk in, ever.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. All right, Vince, how do you end up on the Olympic statue? If you want to share that quick story, maybe 30 seconds. Okay,
so the name of the statue is called Olympic Strength. Strength of mind, strength of body, strength of spirit. It's a 35-foot statue. It's made of bronze and silver. And it is at the U.S. Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It is 4 figurines that are holding a 28-foot globe on their back. It's a female who represents the Pan American Games. It's a male that represents the regular Olympics. Another male with missing a leg, which is the Para Olympian. And then I am in a toga with a laurel around my head and sandals, where these guys are all in a unitard and sneakers. And my figurine represents the essence of what the Olympics is, which is the ancient Greek competitor. A stunt woman named Spice Williams, who's also a black belt out of House of Champions, and she's great under Kyan and them guys. She was already selected to be the female on the statue. And I was at an acting class with her, and she came by and said, Vince, I dropped your name on this artist. He's going to be getting a hold of you. I said, for what? He goes, they said they needed somebody that was true Roman or Greek lines. It had to be that because not a statue, that this artwork was going to be authentic to like what Da Vinci used to do. Okay, they called me in for the test shots. They put me on. It's the first time I saw 3D imaging on a computer, where they scanned you and then they turned you all around. Then they, you know, the Da Vinci's man, the famous fan that stands like this.
Yeah.
They put my body over that to see if I matched the lines. And they said, this guy's truly got like a Greek and Roman bone structure. Everything is like true original Greek, because I'm light-haired and light-eyed. They think Italians are dark-haired and light. No, they're not. So they scanned me. They said, okay, you got it. They tell me to come in a white leotard, like a wrestling leotard, and wear sandals. And I got a total gym. They asked me to get all pumped up like for a bodybuilding show. Then they said, stand like this and act like you got the weight of your world on your back. That's all they said. So I act like I'm flexing, right, pushing the world. And they scan me with these 3 lasers, hit your body, and they start at your feet. And they scan your exact body with these 3 lasers. It's really crazy. It's the same process they did for Terminator, for Arnold, when they did the Terminator movies at Cyber Effects here next to DreamWorks in the Valley. So the guy said, you're perfect for it. Next thing I know, it comes out, it's a statue at the Olympics. And there I am. And it's an exact body duplicate of me. It's got my moles. It's got my striations. It's got the way my arms are. It's got all the things that make you what you look like when people look at your physique. You look at it, you see it. Then when you look at the face, you're like, holy mackerel, that's Vinny with hair. And
wow.
Like, my mother died before seeing it. My father died. My sister died. They never got a chance to see it. And I got the brain injury after I got hit. After I posed for it, I posed for it at 38 years old. I didn't get to see it for 10 more years because I couldn't go above 6,000 feet until my brain injury was completely healed. So I could never drive and see it. I only saw it in pictures. And now finally, when I went and saw it, it like one day I'll take you there. You'll go see it. You'll walk up to it and you'll realize for 1 second that this thing is going to be here for hundreds of years.
That's the headquarters, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest training center in the country. It's
wow.
The #1 training center. And then my friend, I just saw something on the internet that said my statue is the #1 photographed statue in the whole state of Colorado.
Wow. Oh, I'd love to go see that. Yeah.
That's what I said. Only God does these things. You can't. Who knew these? You know, come on. Are you kidding me? People say to me all the time, I said, you don't believe in divine intervention? When I tell people, they say, Vinny, what is your greatest thing? I said, I got a statue of me in the Olympics, solid bronze, 12 feet tall, weighs 2,000 pounds. And they go, oh, this poor kid, he's got a fever. There's something wrong with him. He thinks he's a statue.
All right. Thanks, Vince. Vince, next question. I'd like to try to speed this up a little bit because I want to make good timing. Can business operate in an unsafe environment? And I know you're in the security business. And the reason I'm interconnecting business with your business, because especially during COVID, we see what happens when you strip away, and not getting political, but you strip away security from an environment. What happens? In the worst extreme case, can you make a business in a war zone? No, not real, unless your business is war in a normal environment. So I'd like to get your thoughts on, again, can business operate in an unsafe environment?
In an unsafe environment, a dojo does very well because it becomes a safe haven for people to go.
Right.
You'll definitely see dojos in bad neighborhoods. But I will say to you that any time that violence is prevalent, it's very difficult, except like you say, in wartime, to make any money, because you never know what you can count on, because violence is like fire. It just burns everything up until there's nothing to burn anymore. You know, and if you take away security, listen, The only people that say take away security, defund the police, are people that have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Absolutely no idea what they're talking about. As soon as you say take this away, everything will be fine. That's because you've never actually been in the street and faced any of these animals yourself. But as soon as you take away that layer of protection and they're at your house, and then you call and there's nobody to help you, all of a sudden you realize quite clear what the problem is, that violence must be handled. You cannot let violent people run your world. I'm sorry. Violence cannot be the way, period.
And then going back to the question, businesses, all kinds of businesses, not just security businesses, because security obviously would be, an exception. Your 7-Elevens, your gas stations, your grocery stores, people who just want to open up a barber shop. Can they exist when there's everything to fear because their neighborhood, their environment is unsafe?
I don't believe that they can exist. I believe that they can exist, but I believe it will be chaotic in nature. And eventually they'll come to the same conclusion: you need to buy security.
Exactly. Thank you, Vince. And I don't want to, I'm not pressuring your answer at all. I mean, I know you're speaking from years of experience. And the reason I'm bringing this question up because it ties to money. I've watched my city fall apart in the past 2 years because we have limited security. 911 was not working last summer for 4 months. Okay. All the businesses, people are afraid. They're afraid. And what are they doing? They're getting up and they're going to other cities where they feel more comfortable. So it affects every single little aspect of it. And it's great to hear someone with a master's approach to this to answer it. So thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. And we're not going political. This is completely about just security and money, what affects the relationship between the two. So thank you, Vince. Vince, I want to switch to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Something hits you personally, all of a sudden your views change. When you're sitting up in your golden tower looking down and you're not affected by any of it, but everybody else is, you're not in the mix. You're really not in a position to make that call because you really don't understand what's going on in your own city. Okay, that's all as I'm saying. If the guys don't really understand what's going on the streets, that's who you want setting up your security protocols. A guy who knows what the streets are like, because that's where the danger is.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. Vince, switching briefly to another highlight of your character, something that you've perfected as well, and working on your master, of course, is being a comedian harder than a keynote speaker. So obviously you're a comedian, entering the world of keynote speakers. I'm finding a lot of similarities, but which one's harder? Because they're both extremely difficult to do. Speaking in general is a fear for the common person. A comedian is a speaker, and they're also doing their own thing and a version of that. Which one's harder, do you think? Keynote, and this is just a general question.
I think that doing comedy is harder than keynote speaking. Keynote speaking, you generally have a prepared speech that you went over several times that you're going to present, and you already have a set amount of thoughts and a message and a way you want to deliver it. Comedian might have himself a routine for so many minutes, but mostly real true comedian, that improvisational moments are where the real creation and the real funny comes. And you can't write those things. You can write an act that makes everybody laugh, guaranteed so many laughs. But great comedians create right in front of you. You watch them create. And I think that, and this is another thing, by the way, comedy helped me teach because and it also helps me in security, because I can approach somebody and make them laugh and make them forget that they were all upset.
Oh, humor has saved me so many times on the street.
These guys, when they train, they just think that they can fight. Oh, I'm going to fight my way out of it because I can fight. You can't knock out everybody, man.
Yeah. Especially when you live in a city of millions of people and how many of them are just dangerous people. You can't fight like the minute I walk outside my house fence, I know I'm going to encounter at least 10 people that I could have a potential conflict with in one day. I mean, from the driving, the whatnot, it's just inevitable in these times. And you can't imagine if you did fight 15 people a day. What's that going to accomplish you? Eventually, you're going to lose one or an eye. or get knocked out and get killed. You know, I mean, something's going to happen eventually. But anyway,
You're in a
thank
bad
you, Vince.
place.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. It was a great response. Do most comedians struggle financially their whole lives? Maybe 30 seconds.
I would say the higher percentage of comedians struggle until they get their moment. And then I think that the 1% of ones that really hit, they make enough money to make it for the rest of their lives in a short amount of time.
Thank you, Vince. Vince, next question. Could humor save the world?
Absolutely. You know, I'll just mention two people. Okay. You take a guy like Martin Luther King, that talked about peace. And he advanced civil rights so far because he was intelligent enough to understand you can never violate your way through. You have to peacefully go and let people understand where you're coming from, not force it down their throat. And that's why he made such great gains. The same thing with like Nelson Mandela went through it. He had to go to jail to prove these things, right? Now, comedy is the same way. I may not, you and I may be from completely different regions, but we may be in a situation where it ends up that the both of us look at it and together and look at something and we start laughing, saying, that's crazy, right? And then you realize, well, this guy smiles. He's not really the guy I thought he was, or the boogeyman that somebody painted him out to be. And because I had a preconceived idea of this individual, I act a certain way. But comedy, unless it is derogatory comedy, which I'm not a fan of, I'm a fan of funny. I'm not a fan of a guy picking on another guy, making fun of his whatever, and trying to call that comedy. Comedy comes from tragedy. If the guys haven't had a tragic life, they're probably not that funny. You know?
I love that line. We could spend a whole episode on that one. All right, thanks, Vince. That's a great response. All right, next question. Before we get into what I call my template questions, I asked every great person that came on the show, what is the relationship of survival to martial arts? Maybe in your thoughts, 10, 20 seconds.
Respect. If you don't respect each other, the martial arts will disappear. If you have respect, things can last forever.
What about from a perspective of martial arts to the science of survivalism, how to survive? Like, is there a relationship between that? Like, why are you doing martial arts? You know, it's
martial arts give you the foundation and the tools that you use to apply in everyday life. When people say you're turning martial arts, no, you're studying life. You just have to classify things because people need to classify stuff. Everybody needs something. No, I need to know exactly what I'm doing. It has to be this. But you're studying this. No, you have to open your mind. Nobody knows everything, and everybody can teach you something. A white belt can teach you something, believe me. I learned a line from one of my green belts, okay? Remember, this guy, I got 30 years experience, right? And this guy says up to me one day, and I use it till today. I still use his line. Your ego is not your amigo. I was explaining one day about how to stand down and put your ego in check because some guys just don't care. They don't care. You come up out hard, they're going to fight you. They don't care how hard you come. They're still going to fight you because your ego is leading you. But if you would put your ego down and realize your ego is not your amigo, put your ego away and just try to look at it from his side for one moment, then you'll find some common ground.
I love that line. As your ego is not your amigo. The first time I heard that one.
Never heard it before until I heard it out here. My student said it. I said, you know what? Every time I say it, I'm going to credit it with you, as I just did again for Guido.
Yeah. All right, Vince, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. These are template questions. We'll try to run through them as fast as we can. Very simple questions, but they tie with money and they tie with business and stuff. First one being, well, actually, this one's not exactly business per se, but it's an important one. Can one book change the world?
Bible did.
All right. Thank you, Vince. What role has networking played in your life?
Very, very important. Very important to network with colleagues and people of like minds. It's very important.
Would you say that changed your life, knowing the right people?
I did Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I met a guy named John Capodici there. 30 years later, 20 years later from that, whatever it was, the guy says to me, come to this place called Taste Chicago. I want to introduce somebody. And I meet Joe Mantegna now.
Wow.
And then Joe becomes my buddy. Now, fast forward another, 15 years later. And I, Ed O'Neill, all of Joe's buddies are all friends. I see them all. I know them all. So had I not worked with that guy in Miami that one day and made a friendship, and he happened to be out here and called me to go to Taste Chicago for that lunch one day, I don't meet everybody, and I'm nowhere where I am right now.
That's brilliant. Yeah, the whole path, the whole ancestry of that one connection goes away if you don't be at that specific place on that specific moment with that specific person.
You were invited somewhere. Anytime you're invited somewhere, and it's somewhere that you're not normally going to go to, or some like, wow, this sounds great, you go, it's an opportunity to change your life in a direction that possibly you could not have foreseen.
Like this podcast. Who knows?
Nobody knows where you're going to be in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
You may be the guy that the whole world's looking at like, you're the guy. He's a fighter. Whatever Tony says, that's the way we go. Like they used to talk about Bernie. What was his name?
Oh, Dr. Bernie Siegel. Yeah.
Oh,
he was on Oprah 30 years ago. He was on Oprah. Like I think he was on 2 or 3 times.
They'd say, whatever this guy does, you follow. Listen, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you don't know. You don't know what your life. You don't have no idea what God has in store for you. And again, for the people that don't believe in all of that, I'm sorry that you don't. And I don't mean to keep bringing it up to the people who have that little rash against it or whatever. But at the end of the day, some things are true, whether you believe them or not. And you better know that for a fact. Whether you believe it or not, some things are true, my friend.
That's the universal laws, not man's rules or woman's. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Is mentoring important? This is like, I've never asked anybody on this show like yourself this question, being in the martial art community as strong as you are, and I'm sure I know the answer, but I just love to hear your thoughts. Is mentoring important, and who are some of your mentors? Maybe 20, 30 seconds. I know you've already mentioned some of these. So is mentoring important?
Mentoring for me was mentoring from wise guys, old guys in the street that taught me different things. But it's funny how those guys, the life lessons I learned from them, play into the whole world of today. They just look at it and talk about it from a different point of view. The masters that I was with in martial arts taught me many things. Me, as being a mentor, I work with many kids who a lot of them are missing fathers, tons of missing fathers out there. And I try to influence these young men and women in a way that's positive, that lets them know they have value, lets them know that their choices can be made not based on somebody telling them who they are, but what they decide that they want to do because they know they have something inside. The hardest thing in the world is to try to prove to people that you have a gift when you have a gift. Just go out there and do it. You don't have to explain to anybody. You don't need to prove to anybody. Just go do what's in your heart and it'll work out, because God put it in your heart for a reason, right? It's like, because like, why does a guy decide to be an auto mechanic? Because he likes cars, right? Mm-hmm. God put his heart that he likes mechanics, so that's what he does. Other guys are actors. That's why we become actors. It's what we like to do. It's in your heart. Other people are martial artists. Is what they like to do. That person's going to have passion, which will make that person an effective tool.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Vince. Vince, your favorite financial books, maybe 1 or 2, if any. I don't know if you even read financial books. I think I sent you my copies. If I didn't, I definitely will send you a copy of my 3 books.
I'm a big audiobook guy. very difficult for me to just sit and read, especially with the time restraints that I have. But I don't read financial books. I haven't read them. I don't read that way. I read journals, manuals, like operational manuals, how guys are supposed to do certain things, training manuals, survival manuals. I read some of the stuff, a lot of scripts, obviously, because of the movies. But as far as the books on finance, this is to me, I would say a low rank in finance. I'm not somebody that has, I mean, you have to know your limitations, not something that I'm well versed in, you know. But you can't be well versed in anything. But many people can help you to be versed in finance. But not many people can mentor you in life.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Vince. Vince, did you get my copies of the books? I might have sent it years ago. I'm not sure.
I think you did. I remember seeing the books. I remember seeing Necessity of Finance.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the one I saw. That's the older one.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah. And if I didn't, just let me know. I'll be happy to send you.
I'll send you my book. We'll go get it done.
All right, Vince, next question. Do we need money to survive? Maybe 10, 20 seconds.
You say we, individually or country?
Individuals.
How
I
do you
also
survive?
apply that to countries, yeah, but in this case, it would be individuals, yeah.
It's been my misfortune to find out that coming in underfinanced is the death to business. Thinking that you can come in on a shoestring and then somehow limp along and make it great without the proper finance is very rarely done. It can happen, but very rarely does it ever succeed. Does it succeed? So without the proper finance, you really can't move in the direction you're trying to move to be successful. Without money, nothing happens. There is nothing that can happen without finance to make it happen, because everything costs money. We're on here doing a podcast. Electricity costs money. The internet costs money.
Our time.
All of these things, and your time, all of these things cost money. So to think that money is nothing, but the thing about that I don't believe is when you make money your God and money comes before people, I have a problem with that. I do. Because some things that you throw away and take for granted every day could make another family live for a year. And you just take it for granted and throw it away. And anyway, money is a necessity. And I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of money in this country, way more than they need. Let's just say this. And we'll just say sports individuals. I'm only going to stick with that. And when everybody's trying to change the world, here's the easiest way to change it. Write a check and stop talking. How about you stop advising and just write a check and watch how quick the problem's solved? But you guys, everybody wants to make a statement. No, don't make the statement. Don't ask us for it. You got it in your left pocket. Write the check. Oh, what's the matter? All of a sudden, the cause ain't that great no more, is it? You know what I mean? Oh, I like them, but wait. Come on. You know it's true.
I wrote, yep, that's what I write about. Yeah, absolutely. And I teach. Vince, the next question on this, as an extension to that question, is finance necessary? Now, we're using terms differently. Finance sometimes is unfortunately used to mean funding. I don't use it that way. Funding is, different. When I'm saying finance, I'm talking about the science of finance, the stuff that, they teach in schools, and the management, my personal definition, the management of wealth for individuals, groups, and organizations, a very unique definition, which led me on my path to many conclusions. So the science of that, is that necessary?
Absolutely. You need smart guys that understand finance. You have to have that. If you don't understand finance, you're going to get left out in the cold eventually. Right? I mean, what country ever survived with bad finance at the helm? What country ever made it or became prosperous if somebody at the helm didn't know finance? What company, not just a country, but what company ever became without somebody in the financial department handling all what needs to be handled? I mean, finance is life, is breath, is air. you know?
That's brilliant. Thank you, Vince. All right, Vince, we're moving at a brilliant pace. You got 3 questions left. We can probably tackle that in another minute. Next question, how important is having a purpose in business, and what is your purpose? Maybe 20 seconds.
Purpose gives you a goal. Goal is desire. Desire becomes what you're made of. If you have no purpose and your purpose is just to make money, then you're making a ton of money, but then you'll eventually, you're just buying things. When you have a purpose and a goal and you accomplish that goal, you feel sense of worth, self-value that money can't just, money alone doesn't do.
And what is your purpose, Vince? Can you clarify that, maybe 1 sentence?
I love helping everybody. I love helping the little guy. I do. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have nowhere near the money or anything that these big guys got, but there's something about watching an honest little guy struggle that I just want to help that guy because he's honest. He's honest. He's passionate. He's telling it like it is. And that's a guy I want to help because he's not coming from a place somebody put something in his head. He's honest and he's going for it because he knows he's making a difference in these people's lives. And if everybody did that, it could affect a whole lot of change.
Thank you, Vince. Vince, next question. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so? Maybe 20 seconds.
I would like to see the bouncer, well, Wise Guy Warrior now is another script that we got. I'd like to see that come out on the big screen. It'd be great. I would like to see me in a position that I could get more on the world stage and possibly talk to people who make decisions in places and come at them with a different perspective on life rather than just, you know, anger and hatred and whatever is fueling that negativity. But, you know, I think that people listen to warriors because they first respect them. Because they're warriors. So you got to respect the warrior. The guy doesn't have to posture. He is what he is. He doesn't have to posture for anything. He's just delivering a message that people are not used to hearing from a guy like that. They expect it to be from a guy behind a pulpit. But sometimes that's what you need to hear is from a guy who's actually lived it, been through it, understands it, been burnt by it. And that guy can help you not to be burnt. Would you want your son to step in a bottle? I tell a story to Black Rock. I would just want to wind up with this. My students say, Shihan, what's about the Black Rock? I'll tell you the Black Rock. It's a man who goes to a monastery and he wants to study martial arts and he's outside, they let him in and the kid's there until he's like 17 years old. He came in at 3. At 17 years old, the master says, I'm going to let you go down to the village and get our supplies and bring it back up. It's a 2-day ride down the mountain and all that. You know, they're up in the Himalayas. So he says, is there anything I need to know, Sifu? He says, yes, be careful of the Black Rock. He has no idea what he's talking about. What, the Black Rock? What do you mean? He says, just remember what I said. So this is the first time that this person's been outside the monastery and he's looking at the Himalaya mountains and he's so in awe with the view, he's not paying attention to his path. He's paying attention to the view. Next thing you know, as he's climbing, he's going up the hill, he trips on something and falls all the way the hell down to the bottom. He's bruised his elbow, he's skinned himself up, he's all hurt, and he's got to carry himself all the way back up that hill, and he sees exactly where he lost his footing. He looks down, there's a giant volcanic black rock right there in the middle of the path. He walks back to the village. The master opens the door, sees him coming, sees him limping. He knows he fell down the mountain. He could just tell by the way he's walking. And he goes, you didn't see the Black Rock, did you? He goes, how could you have possibly know that a day and a half into my trek, I was going to trip on one rock in the mountains? How could you know that? And he asked him, you can answer your own question. How do you think I know? You've tripped on it? How many times? You understand?
Yeah.
The master's tripped on that rock many times. That's why he's telling his student, be careful of it. It is your obligation as a senior to look out for the juniors. It is your obligation as a mentor
to look out for the interest of the next generation of martial arts. It's your obligation, the same way that they did for you, you do for them. And by doing it right with them, they'll do it right by the next generation.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. Vince, last question. We're going to close out. Vince, what would you like to be your legacy to this world? Maybe 10 seconds.
God gave me my statue. I was in the best physical shape of my life. It'll be there forever. That is a statue to excellence in all things. And I think that's the best legacy I could ever dream of leaving. I don't think that there's a movie, an Oscar, an award, or anything that could even compare, even money, because the money will be gone one day. I'm only renting things here, then we go. But that statue will be there forever. And guess what it's doing? It's inspiring Olympians. So that is my legacy.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. And Vince, I'd like to close out. And first of all, thank you so much for coming here today and being on the show. I'm honored. You know, you're such a great guy. I called you the other day on a whim. It was like, hey, Vince, I got this podcast, and I don't even think you knew about it, even though we're friends for a few years.
I did not. No, I didn't. You know, I'm honest. I tell you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you want to come on here, man? Like, I really want to just, you know, I really want to go deep, because I know that you're such a great guy. You get so many great avenues. Talk about excellence, that you become excellent in. And there's connections to every one of those paths related to money and today's problems. So I think we've covered a lot today. I can't wait. I look forward. I can't wait to see you on Clubhouse. You're going to come there in a few weeks as well and rip up that stage and just change people's lives. I mean, that's what I do every Friday night on Clubhouse. I got my own room over there and my own stage, and got all major influencers to come here, but the regular people come here too. And we try to help people out with giving them a good message. So I want to thank you again, Vince. And before we close out, I'd like to give you the floor. Anything you'd like to say, the floor is yours, Vince. You want to show a product, a service, anything, you know, it's totally up to you.
First, I want to say thank you to you, Tony. You're a good man. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you having me on and giving me this opportunity to talk to people. I would just like to say, everybody, the martial arts is about respect and honorability and love. And remember, that's what it's meant for. It's not meant for violence. Violence has never been part of why we study the martial arts. As a matter of fact, the first thing that martial arts did was calm my temper down and teach me to be more civil. It's true. Yeah. And I think that the martial arts, if done properly, can give you aspects in your life and make people come together. When you come on my mat, I've got black, white, Chinese, Muslim, Christian, Seventh-day Evangelist, you name, I got everything on my mat. And guess what? We beat the crap out of each other and then hug each other, have a meal together, and everybody loves each other. And not for one time ever does anybody pull out any of the negativity of anybody else's culture, beliefs, or religion. And I think that should be taught worldwide. It's acceptance for who you are without it being rammed down your throat. Just be you. Just be who you are. That's who God made you, and be yourself and help people, you know, help people. Don't look for yourself all the time, you know, and don't help people saying, what am I going to get back in return? That's the worst. Oh, I'm only going to help this person because if I don't do it later on, they might do this. You know what? Do it anyway. Even when people have wronged you 20 times in a row and you're burnt out, do it again. Trust.
Thank you, Vince. And I totally agree with your message. I've noticed that too on the mat. Like you're warrioring with people. Like you're in the most extreme situations with the person. How could you ever think about anything else but the moment? And then when you go through that experience together, like the thoughts of the things that are on the press today, like they never come to people's minds. They don't care about that. Like we're brothers now. I wouldn't worry about my brother because he's a little different than me. If he's my brother, well, that's what he is, you know. Like, so I agree with you, Vince, and I appreciate you again being here, man. And I can't wait to see you on the Clubhouse stage. So where can they find information about you? You have a website or social media?
Just go ahead and you can just Google me, Vince Cecere, or you can go to, oh God, Google me or go on YouTube and just punch in my name. There's so much stuff out there and videos and things that we've done so they can find out more.
Do you have a Facebook account or any of those?
Yeah, I do. I have a Facebook account that's Vince Cecere, or AOSJ, which is my symbol, guys. If you see it anywhere in the world, this is my symbol, and it's the icon of my Facebook page as well.
Okay. Are you on Twitter or any other social media platform?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm so doing so much behind the scenes. When I post things up, it's a matter of like, oh, here's an old memory. Let me show you guys, because Facebook brings it up. Or if I just do something, like Doc. But generally, I'm not pushing the social media like that.
Okay. No.
Just
Well, folks, and if you need to get in touch with Vince, you can go to my website, drfinance.info, go to the contact page and just send a message, and me and my team will get the message through to Vince. So
that's it.
folks,
if you want the book, go to Amazon. You can get the book, my book of Vinnyisms. If you want a Patriot keychain, you can also get me on Facebook and instant message me, and I can get you one. We can send it to you, and then we'll send you the Vimeo link with the code so you learn how to use it. Gives you the 12 pressure points on both sides of the body, where to hit, how to hit, cause and effect, and what will happen.
Thank you, Vince. All right, folks, we're going to conclude now. So again, this is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV. You've been watching Dr. Finance Live podcast with, we got our special guest, Vince Cecere, here today. More info is on the website. Go to drfinance.info. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe and comment wherever you can. Here are my 3 books. The Necessity of Finance. I wrote that for my students about over 10 years ago. Next book, The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance. And then finally, The Survival of the Richest. It's a 500+ page book, tied in all my conclusions. I'm also involved with a 13-book series right now on Think and Grow Rich. We're on like book 7 or 8, so you can check that out. It's called 13 Steps to Riches. But I want to thank Vince again for being here, folks. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Thank you so much.